Let me tell you about the worst day of my life. Well, my second life, technically. Picture this. I'm standing in a training yard, minding my own business, wearing beat-up black armor that's seen better days. Some jerk named Engel from the Blazing Flower family decides he wants to test the Waterlawn family's warriors. And guess who he randomly picks out of the lineup? Me. Out of like a dozen guys. Me. The universe has a sick sense of humor. This dude is decked out in shiny silver armor, looking like a walking trophy. And I'm over here looking like a rusty trash can with legs. One swing of his hammer, and I'm literally flying through the air like a rag doll someone chucked across the room. I hit the ground so hard, I probably left a crater. My friends are screaming my name, and I'm just lying there thinking about absolutely nothing because my brain decided to clock out early. Here's the thing nobody in this world knows. I'm not originally from here. Before all this medieval nonsense, I was a regular guy back on Earth, standing at a traffic light, admiring a fancy silver dragon figurine I'd blown $3,000 on. The seller said it was silver-plated, which honestly could have been total garbage. The dragon had this weird black stick in its mouth that definitely wasn't in the product photos. Classic online shopping scam energy. Then a truck came barreling toward me, the driver screaming his lungs out, and boom, lights out. Next thing I know, I wake up as the second son of Baron Harrier in a world that looks like medieval Europe, except people here have actual superpowers. No big deal. My new life was actually pretty sweet though. My family. Shockingly normal. No backstabbing. No poison in the soup. No evil stepmothers plotting my downfall. My dad announced my older brother Gervais as the heir early on, and since we share the same mom and grew up together, there's zero drama between us. Gervais even promised me an honorary knight title, 2 shops in town, and a little estate outside the city. We're talking a few hundred acres, nothing fancy, but enough to live my dream of doing absolutely nothing for the rest of my life. Peak existence. Chef's kiss. But nope. The universe said, not today, buddy. Gervais got shipped off to the capital 2 years ago because he's some kind of genius, and right after he left, the Count decided every noble kid between 15 and 18 had to come train at Waterlawn Castle for 3 years. Since my brother was already gone, guess who got voluntold? Yours truly. And today's disaster? Pure cosmic trolling. The Count left to tour his lands, and like clockwork, the Blazing Flower family, who've been beefing with the Waterlawn family for literally centuries, sent their eldest son Engel over for a friendly visit. Translation: he came to start trouble. The plan was simple. All of us noble kids line up in the training yard looking tough while Norton, the Count's son, handles the actual talking. We were basically human wallpaper. Decoration. Background extras in someone else's movie. But then 2 merchant guilds in the city started literally stabbing each other over customers, and Norton had to rush off to deal with it before Engel arrived. He figured he had time. He did not have time. Engel showed up early, spotted us standing there like a bunch of unsupervised ducklings, and demanded a sparring match. His finger landed on me. Couldn't say no in front of everyone without looking like a coward. The result? Broken left forearm. 2 cracked ribs. Bruises everywhere. And my helmet got dented so badly they could use it as a soup bowl. Norton showed up just in time to threaten Engel with bandits on the road home, which was honestly the most satisfying thing I heard all day, even though I was barely conscious for it. The old scholar Wallen patched me up using some ultra-rare secret medicine from the Waterlawn family vault. Fancy stuff. He said my bones were set, but I'd need a week to recover. The silver lining? He mentioned that the leftover magical energy from the medicine could help me break through into the supernatural realm, something that would have taken me 2 or 3 more years of grinding. Free power-up. Finally, some good luck. I'm lying in bed, staring at the wooden ceiling, neck locked in place, unable to move a single muscle, thinking maybe getting clobbered wasn't the worst thing ever if it meant skipping years of training. Time to check on all that sweet supernatural energy flowing through my body. Empty. Completely, absolutely, tragically empty. Not a single drop of magical energy anywhere. The medicine's power? Gone. Vanished. Poof. Like my savings after that dragon figurine purchase. My base strength was still there, so I'd recover eventually, but those 2 or 3 years of shortcut evaporated into thin air. Before I could even properly freak out, a strange rushing sound exploded inside my skull, like someone turned on a waterfall in my brain. Because apparently this day wasn't weird enough already. Right when I thought this day couldn't get any weirder, a mysterious black scroll materialized inside my brain. Just popped up like an uninvited pop-up ad, except I couldn't click the X button. Hold on, I know that scroll. That's the stupid black stick my dragon figurine was holding in its mouth. The one that wasn't in the product photos. The one I was trying to yank out right before a truck turned me into a pancake. All this time I thought it was a manufacturing defect, and it turns out it was a magical artifact hitchhiking into another dimension inside a toy dragon's mouth. Incredible. My $3,000 finally paying off from beyond the grave. The scroll unrolled itself dramatically. Real main character energy, and golden text swam across the blank page. Quest: establish yourself. Requirement: obtain a territory no smaller than a knight's domain. Population must exceed 1,000. A cheat code. A cheat code. The classic Transmigrator starter pack. 18 years I've been waiting for this thing to show up. 18. Do you have any idea what I've been through? Let me paint you a picture of my previous attempts at world domination. I remembered the gunpowder formula from history class. 1 part sulfur, 2 parts saltpeter, 3 parts charcoal. Spent months gathering ingredients, mixing and testing like a medieval Breaking Bad. The grand result? My revolutionary weapon had roughly the same explosive power as a cheap firecracker you'd buy at a gas station. Dreams of conquering the continent, dead on arrival. Thanks to my previous life's TikTok addiction, I also knew how to make liquor, soap, and perfume. Any one of those would cause a sensation here. But here's the problem. This world runs on big fish eat little fish rules. The second some powerful noble catches wind that a random baron's second son invented luxury perfume, they'd swallow me whole. Not even bones left. My grave would be an empty hole. These nobles don't do business partnerships. They do hostile takeovers with actual swords. But now, with a golden finger cheat, game changed. All I need to do is keep my head down, grow quietly, don't get cocky, and one day I'll be running this place. Naturally, my first instinct was to try talking to the scroll. Hello? Cheat system? Nothing. Ding? Can you ding for me? Silence. Open sesame. Crickets. Dad? Grandpa? Great ancestor? The scroll sat there like a brick. Not a single flicker, not a beep, not even a sarcastic tutorial fairy. My golden finger has zero customer service. No AI assistant, no help menu, no FAQ page. It's basically a magical post-it note stuck in my brain. Fine, at least I know it exists. Baby steps. But when I looked at the actual quest requirements again, obtain a knight's territory with over 1,000 people, my head started throbbing all over again. Where am I supposed to get a whole territory? I can barely get out of bed. Then my bedroom door creaked open and in walked Norton. He stood by my bed looking at me like I was a wounded puppy he accidentally ran over. Which, metaphorically, isn't far from the truth since Engel came specifically to mess with him, and I'm the one wrapped up like a mummy. 3 years we've lived together, training, eating, goofing around. My mature personality, red. I'm mentally 30-something pretending to be a teenager, and my weird ideas from another world made us surprisingly close friends. The guilt was practically dripping off his unfairly beautiful face. Speaking of which, every single time I look at Norton, my brain short-circuits a little. The guy is devastatingly handsome. If he were a woman, men would be starting wars over him. He looks like that Hollywood actress from my past life. You know the one, the human wrench, Christine. Just absurdly, offensively pretty. You okay, Green? How are you feeling? He asked softly. I managed to smile. Not bad, considering I got the VIP treatment with your family's secret medicine. Wallen says 1 more week, and I'm good as new. The guilt on his face deepened. Then he dropped a bombshell. I want to make it up to you. Name one request. Anything I can do, I'll do it. No questions asked. My brain screamed, Knight's territory. Ask for the territory. The quest. The quest. It took every ounce of willpower to clamp my mouth shut. Think, Green, think. If I asked for land right now, sure, Norton could probably deliver. But the entire Waterlawn family would see me as a greedy opportunist. I'd burn through all my goodwill in one transaction. I still have to live under these people for who knows how long. Better to play the long game. Retreat to advance. Bank the favor. Cash it in later when I've actually done something worth rewarding. Let's have a drink together, I said. In 3 years, I've never seen you touch alcohol. When I'm healed up, you and me, one good night of drinking. Norton stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're sure? Just a drink? I could literally give you a night's domain right now. Stop tempting me, pretty boy. Just a drink, I confirmed, putting on my most noble, selfless expression. What I did was my duty as a vassal. If I asked for land because of it, that would taint my intentions. A man can't betray his own heart, right? Then I wiggled my eyebrows at him because I physically cannot be serious for more than 30 seconds. Norton studied me with this curious look, like he was seeing me for the first time despite 3 years of friendship. He smiled, nodded, promised to drink with me when I recovered, and quietly left. The second that door closed, I went back to racking my brain about how to actually get a territory. Thought so hard my head started hurting again. Zero ideas. My brain was as empty as my body's magical reserves. Eventually, I gave up and decided to sleep, because what else can a guy wrapped in bandages like a Halloween costume do? Meanwhile, and I found this out later, Norton walked straight to his father's study. The Count had just returned from his tour, and Norton had things to discuss. He knocked 3 times, called out, "Father," and 2 men walked out. Uncle Ajax, a big blonde guy in armor with a jaw you could land planes on, and Uncle Camer, an unremarkable-looking fellow in plain clothes. Quick greetings, bows exchanged, and Norton went inside. The Count, sitting behind a fancy redwood desk, immediately asked about me. Norton told him everything. The bandages, Wallen's prognosis, the full week of recovery, even with the secret medicine. The Count frowned. That's severe. The Blazing Flower family is getting more outrageous by the day. Norton seized the moment. Father, why did you stop me from sending assassins after Engel? We're not weaker than the Blazing Flowers. They literally came to our castle and beat up our people. We need to push back. The Count went quiet for a moment, then decided it was time to share some family secrets. Instead of answering directly, he asked Norton a question. What's the most important thing for a noble family? Norton answered without hesitation. Our phantom beasts. A noble can lose territory, lose wealth, but never the phantom beast. The Count nodded for him to continue. Phantom beasts are a noble's foundation. When a person steps into the supernatural realm and awakens their life seed, they can bond with a phantom beast that amplifies their magical power and boosts their combat strength enormously. The beast and the noble grow together. Each one's power fuels the other. But if a supernatural knight loses their phantom beast, they become useless. The Count confirmed all this and then launched into a story about a hunter from bear hunting village who, 2 years ago, got chased by a black bear into a mountain pool, dove underwater to escape, stumbled into an underground cave, and found a way out through a surface exit. Norton sat there confused, clearly thinking, cool story, Dad, but what does a bear-chasing incident have to do with our family feud? And honestly, same energy. But something tells me this cave story is about to get very, very interesting. Now, I was passed out cold during all of this, snoring away in my bandage cocoon like the world's least attractive butterfly. But Norton filled me in on the details later, and honestly, the political drama in this family makes reality TV look boring. So here's what went down in the Count's study while I was drooling on my pillow. The Count finally explained why the Waterlawn family has been eating humble pie from the Blazing Flower family instead of punching back. Turns out, that hunter who got chased by a bear 2 years ago, the one who jumped into a pool and swam into an underground cave, he found something absolutely insane down there. Picture this, a massive tree, tall as 15 people stacked on top of each other, and sitting at the very top, a fruit glowing like the moon. Not a metaphor, literally glowing like a cold, soul-piercing moon. Norton apparently screamed, a lunar-grade phantom beast fruit, and then slapped both hands over his mouth like a kid who just cursed in church. Let me break down how power works in this world because it's basically a video game ranking system. Knights equal barons. Grand Knights equal viscounts. Star Knights equal counts. Lunar Knights equal marquises. And the absolute top dogs, Blazing Sun Knights, get to run their own duchies. Clean, simple, totally unfair to people like me who are currently at the bottom of the food chain wrapped in medical gauze. There are 2 ways to level up. Option 1. Train really hard until you hit your talent ceiling. Then stare at that ceiling forever like it personally insulted you. Option 2. Find a phantom beast fruit. Feed it to your beast evolves, and it drags you up to the next level like a magical elevator. Both the Waterlawn Count and the Blazing Flower Count have been stuck at star level for ages, their talent basically saying, "This is your stop, please exit the ride." But if either of them gets their hands on that lunar fruit, instant promotion, marquee power, extended lifespan, and most importantly, enough strength to absolutely demolish the other family. The Blazing Flower Count knows the fruit exists. He just doesn't know where it is or when it ripens. The Waterlawn Count checked it out personally, disguised his trip as a territory inspection, and estimated 2 to 3 years until harvest time. So why can't the Waterlawn family just flex on the blazing flowers in the meantime? This is where it gets juicy. Phantom beasts pass down through noble bloodlines. But here's the catch. When the family heir needs a beast, the parent's phantom beast has to squeeze out a baby version of itself. This process is basically beast childbirth, and it wrecks the parent beast for 3 whole years. One beast, one baby, one shot, 3 years of being pathetically weak. Norton contracted his family's Waterlawn giant python 2 years ago when he was 15, which means Daddy Count's python is still recovering at maybe 70 to 80% strength. If the Blazing Flower Count found out, he'd declare war faster than you can say, hostile takeover. And that's why Engel showed up to pick fights. The whole thing was a reconnaissance mission. The Blazing Flower Count sent his son to provoke Norton into fighting, because if Norton whipped out a phantom beast mid-combat, that would confirm the Waterlawn beast had already spawned, meaning the Count's beast was in its weakness window. It was a trap dressed up as bullying, and I was the poor idiot who walked into the middle of it and caught a hammer to the skull. Engel is already supernatural, by the way. Broke through 3 years ago. His family's beast finished recovering before anyone even knew. Meanwhile, I, a regular non-supernatural punching bag, was expected to spar with this guy. Fantastic matchmaking. 10 out of 10. Would not recommend. The Count told Norton to stay inside the castle for the next 2 years, train with his python, and take care of the family's secret garden, a hidden place where little spirit creatures live. These spirits are basically magical recycling machines. They take ordinary plants and minerals and convert them into rare magical ingredients. Potion masters then turn those ingredients into elixirs for training and healing. All the potions from the spirits would go to Norton's training. Meanwhile, the Count would handle negotiations with the Blazing Flowers personally, keeping things deliberately confusing, not too aggressive, not too weak, to keep them guessing. But then, and this is the part that made me tear up a little when Norton told me, Norton didn't leave the study. He stayed and basically went to bat for me. He told his father that the Harrier family, that's my family, has been loyal to the Waterlands since they were just lowly barons. He argued that I took a beating meant for him, that I defended the family honor, and that rewarding me would send a message to all the vassal families. We take care of our people, smart politically and a good friend move. The kid plays chess while everyone else plays checkers. The Count did that classic powerful dad thing where he pressed his fingertips together under his chin and stared into the middle distance for what felt like an eternity. The room went so quiet you could hear heartbeats. Then he said, "If you've brought this up, you must already have something in mind. Let's hear it." Norton's face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning, because in noble speak, that basically means, "I'm not saying no, just tell me what you want." Green light. Permission granted. Door opened. And somewhere in my sad little bed, completely unaware that my friend was fighting for my future, I was sleeping like a baby with zero magical energy and a quest scroll in my brain demanding a territory I had absolutely no idea how to get. The universe works in mysterious ways. Sometimes it throws a truck at you. Sometimes it throws a hammer. And sometimes, while you're unconscious, it sends your ridiculously handsome best friend to negotiate a reward on your behalf. I just really hope whatever Norton asked for involves land. Please let it involve land. Please. While I was sleeping like a mummified burrito, Norton, or should I say, the person I thought was Norton, marched into the Count's study and delivered a full-on PowerPoint presentation about why I deserved a reward. Without the PowerPoint, but the energy was there. The argument went something like this. The Harrier family has been loyal since we were nobodies. Green took a hammer to the face defending our honor. If we reward him publicly, every vassal family will see that loyalty pays. It's good politics and the right thing to do. Give him a knight's estate and a lordship title. The Count stared at his kid for a long time, then burst out laughing. So the rumors are true. You and Green really are best friends. You're handing out entire estates now? What's next? Are you in love with him? The boy hasn't even broken into the supernatural realm yet. And here's where everything I thought I knew about my life got flipped upside down. Norton's face turned red, like tomato red, and stammered out some excuse about duty and loyalty and political strategy and definitely not having feelings for anyone. The Count couldn't hold back his grin anymore and said, and I'm paraphrasing what I learned later because my brain nearly exploded, "It's okay, Aurelia. You're at that age where it's natural to develop feelings for the opposite sex." Aurelia, opposite sex. Norton is a girl, my buddy, my training partner, my drinking date friend. The devastatingly pretty person I compared to a Hollywood actress? Turns out there's a very good reason for that. 3 years. 3 years of living together, training together, eating together, and I never figured it out. In my defense, she's very committed to the role. Also in my defense, I was comparing her to a female celebrity this whole time, and my brain still didn't connect the dots. The dots were right there. The backstory is heartbreaking, though. Her mom died in childbirth, and in the Landwale Duchy, male heirs are heavily preferred. With the Blazing Flower family constantly circling like vultures, the Count couldn't risk showing weakness, so baby Aurelia became Norton and grew up pretending to be a boy. The Count promised that once he leveled up to Lunar Knight, he'd have enough power to protect her real identity and secure her inheritance. Anyway, the Count heard Norton, Aurelia, whatever. I'm going to keep calling her Norton because that's what I knew at the time. Heard her request and said, "Actually, you're being too stingy, too stingy." My friend asked for a knight's estate, and the Count said, "Not enough? I need to get beaten up by nobles more often." "Give him Coral Manor," the Count declared. "It's technically a manor, but it's the size of a baron's territory. It's close to the Harrier family lands, so his family can back him up. There are some pirates in the area, but nothing the Harriers can't handle. Ceremony in 1 week." Norton, Aurelia, whoever, literally jumped out of the chair, ran around the desk, hugged her dad, kissed him on the cheek, and sprinted out of the room like a happy little bird to tell me the news. The Count sat there watching his daughter leave and chuckled softly. How many years since she last kissed me? She's really had it rough, that kid. Then, and this part is amazing, he looked at the map on his wall, found Coral Manor, and muttered to himself, "So this kid thinks he can steal my flower, huh? Fine. I'll give you a chance, boy. But taking my Waterlawn flower won't be easy. Show me what you've got." The Count ships US. The Count literally gave me a whole territory partly as a test to see if I'm worthy of his secretly female child. I'm being evaluated as a potential son-in-law, and I didn't even know my best friend was a girl. This world is unhinged. Fast forward 1 week. My bandages are off, my bones have healed, and the great hall of Waterlawn Castle is packed with every noble family in the territory. The place is buzzing with aristocratic gossip and social climbing. There's this hilarious moment where Baron Tully is trying to set up a marriage between his daughter and some knight's son, and the knight is practically drooling at the opportunity, but Baron Tully is doing the classic dodge. "Oh no, they're still so young, let's not rush," because he's already got his eyes on bigger fish. Specifically, my family. The Harrier family is apparently the strongest baron house in the entire Waterlawn territory, and if either my dad or my brother Gervais breaks through to Grand Knight, we'd get promoted to Viscount. Baron Tully spotted my dad across the room and literally sprinted over to start buttering him up. My dad was there looking proud, but trying to play it cool. We look alike apparently. Same black hair, same face structure. He told Baron Tully that when he first got the news about my injury and reward, he nearly had a heart attack. Then the trumpets, basically. The herald announced the Count's arrival with his full title, which took about 30 seconds because nobles collect titles like Pokemon. Lord of the Waterlawn Territory, Count of the Landwale Duchy, Shining Star Knight, His Excellency, Count Norn. Everyone lined up on both sides of the hall, bowing as the Count marched in, with his butler friend, armor clinking like a walking wind chime. All of us young nobles filed in behind Norton, Aurelia, and formed 2 neat rows in the center of the hall. My heart was pounding. Even though Norton had already told me about the reward days ago, I'd spent the entire week feeling like I was living in a dream. Not just because of the land and title, though obviously that's huge, but because my impossible scroll quest? The one demanding a territory with at least 1,000 people? About to be completed by accident. The Count gave a speech about courage and loyalty, name-dropped me in front of everyone, and announced that he was granting me noble status and territory. The crowd went nuts. Even the nobles who'd heard rumors didn't expect him to be this generous. I walked up, knelt on one knee, and the Count drew his sword. Tap on my left shoulder. Tap on my head. Tap on my right shoulder. Classic knighting ceremony. Just like the movies, except this was my life, and I was trying very hard not to cry or laugh hysterically. Before the Creator God, I, Count Norn of the Waterlawn family, Landwale Duchy, hereby grant Harrier Green the title of Lord and bestow upon him the territory of Coral Manor. Under the gaze of the gods, he shall uphold the virtues of loyalty, humility, integrity, sacrifice, justice, honor, valor, and compassion. I took the sword like it was made of holy light, held it straight in front of me, and declared my oath with every ounce of sincerity I could muster. Before the Creator God and all the gods, I, Harrier Green, shall uphold loyalty, humility, integrity, sacrifice, justice, honor, valor, and compassion. I shall protect my people and aid the weak. If I break this oath, may my soul find no rest in the divine kingdom and fall into eternal damnation. Pretty metal for a guy who was browsing TikTok and buying dragon figurines in his previous life. I designed my own noble banner too, blue background, a shield crossed with a sword, and a sea harrier bird spreading its wings above them. I originally wanted to sneak in some Chinese cultural elements, but the family crest rules only let me add stuff to the existing harrier bird design. The sword and shield represent bravery. Good enough. Way cooler than my previous life's achievements, which included Employee of the Month at literally nowhere. The Count ceremonially cut the swallowtail from my banner, some tradition thing. And just like that, I was officially a noble lord. The hall erupted in applause and cheering. My dad was in the crowd squeezing his fists so hard his knuckles were probably white. Baron Tully was probably already calculating which daughter to offer me. As the Count moved on to giving other kids their rewards, treasure here, secret medicine there, I finally had a moment to check my brain scroll. Quest complete. Distributing quest reward. 5 little dots. Loading screen. My golden finger cheat system has a loading screen. Even in a fantasy world, I can't escape buffering. The scroll finished loading, and I nearly choked on my own spit. Reward. Heavy Infantry X10. Hero Unit. Blood Shark Mons. 10 heavy infantry soldiers. Just hand it to me. For free. Do you know how insane that is? A single set of heavy infantry gear costs 6 gold coins, enough to feed a family for over a decade. Most small nobles can't even afford one of these guys, and my magical brain post, it just casually dropped a whole squad in my lap. And a hero unit on top? Hero units are basically reincarnated legendary warriors with maxed out talent stats. This is absolutely a starter pack. My cheat system went from 0 customer service to here's everything, king. The catch? I had to pick up the soldiers tomorrow at some tavern called Blue Shadow on Azure Street and meet the hero unit at Coral Manor in 9 days. Plus a new quest. Reach my territory within 10 days. Easy enough. 3 days riding to my family's castle. 1 more day to Coral Manor. My dad found me spacing out at the banquet and probably thought I was having a stroke. I quickly blamed it on thinking about my new territory, which, technically, wasn't a lie. He pulled me into a quiet corner with 2 glasses of wine and gave me the dad talk. First, I don't care about knight's honor. If you're ever in danger again, surrender. That chivalry stuff is for idiots who die young. Honestly, best parenting advice in any universe. I nodded so hard I almost hurt my freshly healed neck. Then he briefed me on Coral Manor. Turns out it's not some tiny garden. It's an island nearly half the size of a baron's territory, close to our family lands. The downside? South of it lies a chain of 30 to 40 pirate islands. But apparently the pirates mostly rob small merchant caravans and leave nobles alone. So as long as I don't do anything stupid, I should be fine. Famous last words, probably. Dad also mentioned he'd already sent his butler to prepare supplies for me as a coming-of-age gift. Have I mentioned I love my family? I told him I'd head home in 2 days, rest up, then make for Coral Manor early. He nodded, told me to go thank Norton properly, and wandered off to schmooze with the Count. I scanned the hall, spotted Norton surrounded by a swarm of noble kids, all competing for attention, and called out the name. Norton's face literally lit up, ditched the entire fan club without a second thought, and we grabbed our own corner to chat. Apparently, to Norton, none of those other people mattered nearly as much as me, which is very flattering and also very confusing now that I know certain things about Norton that I did not know at the time. Woke up feeling like someone filled my skull with rocks and then shook it. Sunlight blasting through the window like a personal attack. Dragged myself to the desk, chugged a cup of water, and slowly remembered why I felt like death. Norton and I had our drinking date last night. My brilliant plan was to outdrink the guy. Guess who lost? Me. Norton drinks like a fish wearing a human suit. Lesson learned. Never challenge your secretly female best friend to a drinking contest. The sun was already high, which meant it was almost noon, which meant I needed to hustle to that tavern to collect my scroll reward. Finding Blue Shadow Tavern on Azure Street was an experience. The street name sounds fancy, right? Lies. Azure Street is the armpit of Waterlawn City. Sewage running through the roads, mystery substances floating in gutters, a smell so foul my nostrils filed a formal complaint. Even in a prosperous city like this, there's always that neighborhood. At the end of the street sat a sad little two-story wooden shack with a broken sign reading, Blue Shadow, because somebody had literally snapped the right side off. Classy establishment. I pushed open the door, which screamed like a dying cat, and the entire bar went dead silent. Every eyeball in the room locked onto me. Fair enough. My clothes were simple but clearly expensive fabric, and I had a noble's badge on my collar. Walking into this dive was like parking a Ferrari in a junkyard. The bartender scurried over, bent at the waist like a human question mark, trembling so hard he could have powered a small generator. And most honorable young lord, how may this humble one serve you? In this world, a commoner disrespecting a noble gets hanged. These people weren't scared of me personally. They were scared of the system that could delete them for breathing wrong. Pretty dark, but that's medieval life for you. I scanned the room, and there they were. Corner table. 10 absolute units sitting together in ragged linen clothes. The guy at the head of the table looked like if Shaquille O'Neal became a medieval hunter and got into a fight with a bear. At least 7 feet tall, built like a fortress, with 3 savage claw scars running from his left eye down to his jaw. Terrifying. Beautiful. Exactly what 10 free heavy infantry soldiers should look like. That had to be Mons. My hero unit. Bloodshark Mons. Now here's what I didn't know at the time, but pieced together later. Mons was the hunting squad captain from Bear Hunting Village, the same village near the cave where the Count's secret phantom beast fruit was hidden. When the Count sealed off the hunting grounds to protect the fruit, the whole village starved. That missing hunter from the Count's story? Yeah, Mons didn't know the details, but he knew something was fishy. After a year of secretly poaching just enough to survive, he finally gathered his 10 best guys and came to the city looking for mercenary work. Nobody hired them. He had 10 copper coins left. 10. That's not even grocery money. That's, counting individual coins and wondering which meal to skip, money. I walked straight toward him. He straightened up, hope flickering in his eyes. Even hunched over, this dude was taller than me standing on my toes. I looked him up and down thinking, what are they feeding people at Bear Hunting Village? This man is a biological weapon. He stood there with this desperate smile, trying to look friendly despite a face that could curdle milk, probably panicking internally. Please be a customer. Please be a customer. Please be a customer. I extended my hand like the smoothest gentleman this side of the continent and introduced myself with every single title I owned. Lord of Coral Manor, Hereditary Knight of House Harrier, Defender of Waterlawn Castle's supreme honor. Laid it on thick. Mons looked like someone had clubbed him with a dictionary. His brain was buffering harder than my scroll system, latching onto keywords. Lord. Harrier family. Waterlawn Defender. The tavern owner rushed over with a chair like his life depended on it. I gestured for Mons to sit, sat down myself with maximum elegance, and got straight to business. I hear you're looking for work. I'm not hiring mercenaries. I'm recruiting permanent, loyal guards. Mons lifted his head, and for just a split second, I caught hesitation flash across those scarred features. Which makes sense. Permanent guard is very different from temporary gig. One is a job. The other is a life decision. But I had a plan. And step one of that plan was making sure this giant mountain of a man believed I was worth following. Every polite gesture, every respectful handshake, every perfectly placed smile, all calculated. Not in a villainous way, more like job interview energy. Except I'm the one doing the hiring and the selling simultaneously. Time to close the deal with my free army. Mons was clearly running the math in his head. Mercenary work versus permanent guard duty. Mercenaries get paid and bounce. Guards? Your whole life belongs to the Lord. Your family moves to his land. You're locked in. I could practically hear his brain grinding gears. He politely asked about pay and conditions, which, fair. The man's not stupid. So I went nuclear with the offer. 5 silver moons a month for everyone else, 10 for him. Land grants, 30 acres per person, 60 for Mons. And only 20% tax, which is basically robbery in reverse when the standard rate is 30 to 40%. Throw in free food, free housing, and a cut of any battle loot. I was basically offering them the medieval equivalent of a Silicon Valley compensation package. Mons did the math on his fingers, and his eyes went wider than dinner plates. 60 acres produces enough grain to feed a dozen people, plus 10 silver coins monthly, plus free room and board. This deal was better than what the Count's own guards get. The man hit the floor so fast his knees probably left dents. I pledge my life to you, my lord. Then all 10 guys behind him dropped like dominoes. We pledge our lives. Just a chorus of massive dudes slamming their knees into the tavern floor. The other bar patrons probably needed new pants after witnessing that. Here's where my secret weapon kicked in, being from the modern world. Every noble on this continent treats commoners like furniture. But me? I walked over and personally helped each one of them stand up. Shook their hands. Looked them in the eyes. You'd think I'd handed them the keys to a kingdom. These guys were so moved they were practically begging for enemies to appear so they could fight for me on the spot. I paid everyone up front, 70 silver moons total. Casually dropped it on the table like it was pocket change. It was absolutely not pocket change. Chatted with everyone. Then bounced. Told them to meet me at the West Gate tomorrow morning at 8. After I left, apparently Mons sat there staring at the pile of silver coins like he'd hallucinated the entire encounter. The man had 10 copper coins to his name this morning. Now he's got a salary, land, and a lord who shakes hands with commoners. Life comes at you fast. Walking back to the castle, I remembered the scroll and checked it again. 3 new icons had appeared in the corner. A little person, a flag, and a scroll. My brain post, it got a UI update. Tapped the person icon and got my character sheet. Realm, Apprentice Knight, 99 out of 100. 1 point away from breaking through. 1. The universe is just teasing me at this point. My skills were decent. Expert riding, expert swordsmanship, basic hand-to-hand combat, and expert noble etiquette. Thanks, 3 years of pretending to be fancy. But the real jaw-dropper was my traits. There was one called Past Wisdom that massively boosts mental power. And here's the kicker. Lets me bond with 2 phantom beasts instead of 1. In this world, that's called being a chosen knight, basically the cheat code of cheat codes. Dual phantom beasts means unbeatable at the same level. I checked the flag icon next and found Mons' stats. Loyalty, 83. Not bad for day 1. His hunting skill was at 98 out of 100. The man is basically a GPS-guided missile in the forest. He also has the giant strength trait and an unawakened hero spirit trait. Once that thing triggers, his power will skyrocket. Just gotta figure out how to trigger it. Spent the rest of the day saying my goodbyes around the castle. The Count was nice about it, encouraged me, tried to get me to stay longer. I politely declined. Norton was apparently in closed-door training and couldn't see visitors, which stung a little. Had to leave my goodbye with the Count to pass along. Then I visited Old Wallen, who literally saved my life, so obviously I had to thank him properly. Big mistake on the time management front. That old man could talk. Trapped me for hours, made me eat dinner with him, and I had to fake needing to pack just to escape. Love the guy? Never visiting without an exit strategy again. Back in my room, I looked around one last time at the place I'd called home for 3 years, packed my bags in record time, and crashed hard. 3 days of riding ahead, and but was already filing a preemptive complaint. Morning fog in Waterlawn City hits different when you're leaving for good. The whole place was wrapped in ocean mist like the world forgot to load its graphics. I was looking pretty sharp, black fitted outfit, sword on my hip, little bundle on my back, leading my horse through the cobblestone streets. Main character energy at maximum. Butler friend intercepted me at the castle gate looking like he'd been ironed head to toe. This man's outfit had 0 wrinkles. His hair had 0 wrinkles. If perfection were a person, it would take notes from Fren. He handed me 2 pouches, one black, one blue. The black one, 100 gold coins from the count. Just a casual, congratulations, gift worth more money than most people see in a lifetime. Plus the count had already sent people ahead to tidy up Coral Manor for me. The blue pouch was from Norton, with a message, "Sorry I can't see you off. I'm in closed training, but I'll visit Coral Manor when I'm done." My heart did a tiny thing when I heard that. Just a tiny thing. Moving on. Stepped outside the city gates and found my new squad waiting. 10 giant dudes in linen clothes holding woodcutting axes, standing perfectly still like the world's scariest statues. The 2 city guards nearby were drenched in sweat, gripping their halberds so tight their knuckles were white. Poor guys looked one sneeze away from calling for backup. When Mons spotted me and yelled, "My lord," and the whole squad surged forward, I swear one guard nearly fainted. 4 days of riding later, I saw it, Harrier Castle. Home. 3 years away, and the sight of those blue-gray stone walls made something unclench in my chest that I didn't even know was tight. Walking through Birdbeak Street was a whole homecoming parade. Every vendor recognized me despite 3 years gone. Young Master Green. Try these fruits. Picked fresh this morning. The Harrier family runs a tight ship, fierce reputation outside, but genuinely beloved by our own people. Good leadership leaves a mark. Then I saw Mom. Lady Lillian was standing at the castle bridge with Dad, and the second she spotted me, her eyes went red and she charged. Wrapped me in a hug so tight my recently healed ribs filed a complaint. Then she whisper-yelled into my ear, "My little Green, you've grown up. Already a soaring sea harrier. Getting involved in dangerous things." HMPH. I hugged her back and tried my best defense. "Dear Lady Lillian, please believe me. I had absolutely no choice in the matter." She was gearing up for round 2 of the interrogation when Dad swooped in with the save. "Darling, we're in public. Manners. Castle first, scolding later." Mom shot him a death glare that could have wilted flowers, then grabbed my hand and dragged me inside like I was 5 years old again. I signaled our butler Corley to take care of Mons and the boys. Corley is the kind of butler whose gloves are whiter than fresh snow and whose hair is so perfectly slicked that flies would literally slide off it. The man is a walking hygiene standard. Inside the castle, rows of maids greeted me with warm towels. The dining table was loaded with food, and not the sad medieval boiled everything into mush kind. See, one of my greatest contributions to this world has been revolutionizing Harrier family cuisine using my past life knowledge. After years of sneaking Chinese cooking techniques into the kitchen, our meals are now so good that neighboring lords send people to learn from our cooks. My legacy isn't swordsmanship, it's seasoning. After dinner, I spent a solid hour apologizing to Mom before she finally let me off the hook. Crawled into my old bedroom, which was spotless, exactly how I'd left it, like time had frozen. Changed clothes, flopped onto the bed like a boneless jellyfish, started thinking about Coral Manor, drifted to memories of Waterlawn Castle, thought about Norton, thought about scrolls, thought about pirate islands. And passed out cold. 4 days of horseback riding had turned my legs into 2 angry noodles, and my brain wasn't far behind. Best sleep I've had in 3 years. Woke up to discover someone had tucked me in, removed my shoes, and covered me with a blanket like I was a toddler. $20 says it was Mom. Pulled the bedside rope to summon servants. 3 male servants. Because House Harrier has a strict, no female attendants for the young masters policy. Smart move, honestly. Eliminates drama before it starts. Looked in the mirror after getting dressed and couldn't help myself. This guy is devastatingly handsome. Zero shame. I said what I said. Breakfast was magnificent. Milk, golden toast, crispy bacon, fresh lettuce, butter, fried eggs. All seasoned and prepared using cooking techniques I smuggled in from my past life. My greatest contribution to this world isn't swordsmanship or military strategy. It's food. The entire Harrier family eats like modern humans now, and neighboring lords literally send people to study our kitchen. My real superpower is seasoning. Mom was in the finance room doing accounts when I walked in. She got straight to business. No small talk, pure efficiency. This woman runs numbers like a Wall Street accountant trapped in a medieval noblewoman's body. The care package from home was ridiculous. A squad of guards, male servants, supplies loaded onto the family ship. We have a ship called the Harrier. And the crown jewel, 3 Harrier spirit bugs out of the family's 10. These bugs are basically living gold mines. Each one produces a rare mineral called Harrier feather or annually, which gets smelted with steel into super light, super tough Harrier feather iron. One bug's yearly output makes a complete knight's armor set worth 60 gold coins. Regular armor? 20 gold, tops. 3 bugs means roughly 500 gold coins in pure profit per year. My parents casually handed me a passive income stream that most nobles would commit crimes for. There's also a water snake spirit bug from Mom's dowry, but that one stays home for Big Brother Gervais. Totally fair. It produces magical fruits for knight training potions, and the heir needs it more. Mom also mentioned she'd requested a scholar from Scholar City for my territory. 1-month delivery time. Like ordering furniture, but for educated people. Then came the management question, butler and guard captain. She offered to train one of our servants under Butler Corley for a few years, sending Corley's son as a temp. But I turned that down. I'll be running a territory with secrets, magical scroll, cheat system, the usual. Need my own people. I'll recruit my own butler mother. And my guard captain is already sorted. That giant following me around? Mons. Trustworthy. Mom raised an eyebrow at how quickly I trusted Mons, but shrugged it off. Fine. Your territory, your call. Now get out. You're disrupting my accounting. Headed upstairs to Dad's study and immediately got attacked by a gray-white blur that launched itself at my chest. But I knew this move. Raised my left arm and caught it perfectly. Long time no see. Rhine. Rhine is the family phantom beast, a harrier bird. Currently shrunk down to perch on your arm size, but at full scale? Over 3 meters long with a 9-meter wingspan. Feathers tough enough to deflect swords. One diving attack can scatter an entire squad of soldiers. An absolute sky predator wearing metal-looking plumage. The bird tilted its head and chirped at me with those bright blue eyes. Happy as a puppy. Rhine can't talk, yet. Intelligence of an 11-year-old kid currently, but if it ever hits star level, it'll gain adult-level smarts and actual speech. For now, happy chirps will do. Dad's big news. Brother Gervais broke through to the supernatural realm last month and is coming home by year's end. 2 to 3 months of travel from the capital. My brother, the prodigy, the heir, the guy who actually likes me, is finally returning after years away. I'll come back early for the holidays so we can welcome him together, Dad smiled. I smiled. Rhine chirped. Everything was warm and wholesome, and for one beautiful moment, nobody was trying to hit me with a hammer. 3 days after leaving home, the Harrier family ship pulled into Coral Manor's dock at sunset, and I made sure we arrived looking absolutely terrifying. See, halfway through the voyage we stumbled across a sinking merchant ship. My scroll's equipment delivery, obviously, the system literally mailed me armor via doomed cargo vessel. We rescued 6 crates right before the ship gurgled its last breath and sank. Inside, 10 full sets of heavy infantry gear and 1 oversized knight's armor set clearly made by northern blacksmiths, because only people from the Frost Crystal Kingdom build armor that chunky and aggressive looking. Dad had already given me a custom plate armor set forged from Harrier feather iron. Light, tough, magical. So the big knight armor went straight to Mons, who looked like a final boss the moment he strapped it on. I ordered everyone to suit up before landing because nothing says, "Don't mess with me," like a squad of axe-wielding heavy infantry marching off a warship. The dock was packed with peasants craning their necks. Mons walked down the gangplank first, 7 feet of plate armor carrying a double-bladed battle axe, each footstep practically shaking the ground. The crowd lost it. "That giant knight must be our new lord," one serf whispered. "Look at that armor. Must be worth 3 gold coins at least." Then I stepped out behind Mons. Black hair, nice clothes, noble bearing, and everyone's brains did a hard reset. Oh, that's the lord. The pretty one. The village chiefs and tax officer dropped to their knees so fast, they probably bruised something. "Great lord. Noble master. We pledge our loyalty." A whole chorus of peasants shouting over each other trying to be the most enthusiastic bootlicker. I don't love the kneeling thing. Past life me finds it deeply uncomfortable. But I'm literally the ruling class now, so, when in Rome, gave them my best inspirational speech. Shelter, safety, food. All I ask is loyalty. Short, sweet, effective. The village chiefs took one look at my 10 heavy infantry soldiers with their gleaming axes and became approximately 300% more respectful. One thing worried me, though. Two old farmers, Cuss and Lauren, had been chatting under a tree earlier about a drought problem. The weather turned scorching a full month early. Coral Lake's water channels were drying up, and if crops failed, the tax collectors would literally whip people for every missing pound of grain. Fun place I've inherited. Riding toward the manor on borrowed draft horses, the Count took back the war horses, naturally. I noticed the farmland looked rough, cracked soil, wilting crops, desperate serfs hauling water buckets. But closer to the manor, everything got greener and lusher. Interesting. Then I saw it, Coral Manor itself. Stone walls draped in climbing vines and trumpet flowers, the gates wide open, and to the right, a massive lake shimmering in the dying sunlight. The tax officer rushed to explain. That's Coral Lake, my lord, our only nearby freshwater source. Everything depends on it. I nodded, said nothing, climbed off my horse, and walked through those gates into my new life. My brain was already spinning with plans. Drought solutions, pirate neighbors, territorial development, the scroll's next quest, 100 problems, and exactly 0 time to waste. This tiny island manor couldn't contain my ambitions. But first things first, survive the summer without everyone's crops dying. Coral Manor is gorgeous. 3 stories of stone architecture with a skylit courtyard, banquet halls, a private bath, a flower garden out back, and a bedroom with a lake view that would make real estate agents weep. The Count was using this as a vacation home. Rich people are unreal. Checked my scroll before bed and nearly laughed out loud. New quest complete, and the reward was a professional butler arriving tomorrow via slave trader convoy. My cheat system has the weirdest delivery methods. First a sinking ship, now a slaver caravan. What's next? Airdropped by dragons. Slept like the dead, woke up embarrassingly late, and headed to the dock with Mons and the guards. Along the way, all 5 village chiefs happened to, coincidentally, appear to bow and greet me, even though only 2 villages are actually on this route. These guys walk from the other side of the island just to kiss up. Respect the hustle. The naming system here kills me, by the way. My 5 villages are called Wheat Village, Little Wheat Village, Fishing Village, Tomato Village, and Cabbage Village. Whoever named these places had the creativity of a potato. At the dock, a slave-trading fleet had already anchored. Their manager, a guy named Cons, stepped off the ship singing a happy tune, until Mons materialized behind him like a steel wall. Cons turned around, saw a chest plate, looked up, kept looking up, and his soul visibly left his body. When I introduced myself as the new lord, Cons nearly short-circuited. Turns out this dock had been his family's unofficial rest stop for years. No lord around, just a bribable tax officer. Free real estate, basically. Now there's me, and Cons immediately shoved a fat bag of coins into my hands with the speed of a man who's bribed his way through life. I pocketed the money with a smile. Free money is free money. And told him he could keep using the dock, but only the dock area, nothing beyond. Then I casually asked to see his merchandise. My brain was already 5 steps ahead. This dock was wasted under the Count's ownership. Prime commercial real estate sitting there doing nothing. Build some shops, sell food and supplies to passing ships, station Mons and his terrifying axe squad as security so nobody causes trouble. Instant revenue stream. Cons practically vibrated with joy when I said he could keep stopping here. The nearest alternative port was 2 days off his route. A happy customer and a new business partner? He bent so low he nearly folded in half and offered to give me the full merchandise tour. Somewhere in that slave ship was a man named Clorin, a master butler the scroll promised me. I just had to find him, buy him, and set him free. Shopping for people feels deeply wrong, but in a medieval slave economy, sometimes you gotta play the game to change it. Going below deck into the slave ship was, without exaggeration, the single worst sensory experience of both my lives. And I got hit by a truck in one of them. 80-something people crammed into the bottom of a ship with 0 bathroom access. The smell wasn't just bad, it was aggressive. It attacked my eyes. My nose filed for divorce from my face. I slapped a handkerchief over my mouth and nose, and it did approximately nothing. Mons insisted on coming with me even though I told him I could handle myself. I'm literally one stat point away from supernatural. I can take on 5 regular guys, but, my 7-foot bodyguard had to squeeze his enormous armored self through a tiny ship hatch. Watching him crouch walk through that corridor was like watching a bear try to fit inside a mailbox. Cons, our friendly neighborhood slave trader, was leading the way with an oil lamp, grinning his best customer service smile. Deepest apologies for the unpleasant shopping experience, my lord. 20% discount on everything today. Shopping experience. He called this a shopping experience. I'm wading through human misery and biological waste, and he's talking like we're at a department store. I looked at every cage we passed. Farmers, runaways, deserters, nobody matching my scroll's description. My hope was draining faster than the air quality. Then, in the very last cage in the darkest corner, I spotted someone different. A young man in what used to be a white cotton shirt, now black with filth, with messy hair and a dirty face. But something about him screamed, I don't belong here. His clothes were better quality than everyone else's. And was that a family crest embroidered on his collar? Cons jumped in immediately. This one claims he's nobility. From some barren family in the northern border of the Frost Crystal Kingdom. Family got wiped out by dwarves, unfortunately. He's not a firstborn from the main wife, though, so technically no noble protection applies. That's the only reason I dared grab him. I looked at the young man through the iron bars. Even covered in grime, there was a sharpness in his eyes that screamed intelligence. Care to introduce yourself? I said through my handkerchief. The guy actually tried to fix his hair before answering, straightened his filthy collar, then gave me a proper chest bow. Perfect form, textbook etiquette, from inside a cage that smelled like a sewer had a baby with another sewer. Honored Lord, my name is Frostwolf Clorin. I graduated top of my class in business management from the Frost Crystal Royal Academy. I am proficient in management theory, commercial operations, and social etiquette. If you would be so kind as to remove me from this establishment, I assure you my skills will not disappoint. The confidence radiating off this man. He's standing in a pool of unmentionable fluids, hasn't showered in weeks, looks like a raccoon that lost a fight, and he's delivering his resume like he's at a job fair. Graduated first in his class, apparently. Even had Viscount families trying to recruit him. Turned them all down because he wanted to go home and prove himself to his family and take care of his mother. Then the dwarves destroyed everything. His family, his home, his mother, all gone. 3 days searching through rubble. Then weeks fleeing through war zones, only to get snatched by slavers at the finish line. Tragic backstory? Check. Elite education? Check. Desperate motivation to prove himself? Check. Matches the scroll's description perfectly? Double check. I stuck my hand through the bars without hesitation. Clean, white, noble hand extended toward a man covered in filth. Clorin stared at it like I'd offered him a winning lottery ticket. He'd been preparing a whole sales pitch, probably had a 5-minute speech about his accounting skills, and I just skipped straight to the handshake. He wiped his hand on his ruined shirt, gently took mine, and said with quiet intensity, Honored master, Clorin offers you his loyalty. Just like that, I had my butler. Pulled straight from a slave ship like a diamond out of a dumpster. The scroll's delivery service is horrifying but undeniably effective. Now can we please get out of this floating toilet? My nose may never recover. 3 days into being a lord, and I finally sat everyone down for the, here's how this is going to work, breakfast meeting. Picture the scene. Me at the head of a sunlit banquet table, elegantly cutting into a fried egg like a proper nobleman. Clorin standing at my side in a crisp butler suit, looking like he'd been born for this role. Hard to believe 3 days ago, he was sitting in a floating toilet. And Mons, my beloved giant, eating breakfast in full armor. I've told this man 100 times he doesn't need to wear plate mail to eat scrambled eggs. He sleeps in it too. I've given up. If the man wants to be a walking tank 24/7, that's his choice. Time to delegate. I turned to Mons first. You're now officially guard captain. Split our forces. 5 heavy infantry plus 5 regular guards per team. 1 team guards the manor, 1 guards the dock. Daily rotation. Here's a training manual. I handed him a booklet I'd written from memory. Fitness routines, discipline protocols, tactical formations. Basically everything useful I remembered from military documentaries and video games mashed into one handbook. The medieval equivalent of a CrossFit program designed by a guy who played too much Total War. Also, you're going to school. 2 hours every night with Clorin learning to read. Start with Common Continental Script. Once we get population numbers, you'll recruit 30 militiamen for patrol duty and part-time training. You've got 3 days to start scouting candidates. Now go. Tax officer and village chiefs are meeting us at the gate in 30 minutes for a territory inspection. Mon stood up so fast his armor clanked like a kitchen falling downstairs, saluted, and marched out. Beautiful. Then I turned to Clorin. He stepped smoothly into my line of sight with a subtle bow. This man has instincts. You're officially the butler of Coral Manor. I need a complete census of the entire territory, total population broken down by gender, age groups, elderly, middle-aged, young adults, children. Anyone with special skills gets flagged and registered separately. Also a full inventory of every resource and supply we have. Check for local specialties. The village chiefs and tax officer will help you. You have 3 days. Questions? Clorin smiled like I'd just asked him to do something easy. Your lordship, Clorin will not disappoint you. The confidence on this man. Chef's kiss. Before heading out, I snuck back to my room and pulled up Clorin's stats on the scroll. Loyalty, 89. Management skill, 87 out of 100. Etiquette, 92. And 2 incredible traits, intelligence, for boosted learning, and management genius, for significantly improved efficiency. The man is literally built different. His loyalty jumped from 80 to 89 in one day because yesterday, right after buying him, I burned his slave contract in front of him. Just lit it on fire and said, "You're free." His face did about 17 emotions in 3 seconds. That single gesture nearly maxed out his devotion meter. So naturally, I handed him complete control of all finances and resources. Was it because I'm a trusting, noble leader who recognizes talent? Yes. Was it also because managing spreadsheets sounds absolutely miserable? I will neither confirm nor deny. 3 days of riding around inspecting every corner of my territory later, I was done. Soaked in a hot bath, put on pajamas, poured myself a glass of Yakli Red, a magical wine that costs 30 silver coins per bottle but actually reduces fatigue. I allow myself exactly 1 glass per night because I'm not rich enough to be an alcoholic. Clorin appeared in my study looking exhausted but perfectly composed. Not a hair out of place, suit still immaculate. Holding a thick notebook stuffed with 3 days' worth of data. The Harrier family servants I'd brought along were already trained professionals, so Clorin didn't waste time teaching them basics. Smart delegation all around. Time to find out what I'm actually working with in this territory. Something told me the numbers weren't going to be pretty. Clorin dropped the census report on me like a homework assignment I wasn't ready for. Nearly 4,000 people in my territory. All serfs, not a single free citizen. The gender split leans female, which means... Actually, I don't know what that means yet. Age breakdown. About 400 elderly, 1,000 middle-aged, 1,500 young adults, and almost 900 kids. My territory is basically a medieval daycare attached to a farm. Skilled workers? A joke. 67 fishermen, fine, 8 carpenters, okay, 5 hunters, sure, and 2 blacksmiths. 2. For almost 4,000 people. My professional workforce is literally 2%, and that's only if you're generous enough to count fishermen. If you don't, under 1%. I'm running a territory where 99% of people only know how to put seeds in dirt. The food numbers are actually decent though. Wheat, barley, tomatoes, turned into sauce, and a mountain of cabbage that gets pickled and shoved in cellars. Between crops and fishing, there's enough to feed everyone with surplus left over. Tax rate is 60-40, so I collect around 300,000 pounds of produce annually. The problem? I have no idea what any of it's worth because Clorin's from a completely different kingdom and doesn't know local market prices. Minor detail. Then came the bad news sandwich. No special products. No unique resources. We're a farming island in a country that already has plenty of farms. And the drought is real. Coral Lake is shrinking, irrigation channels are drying up, and if I don't fix it, crops die and people starve under my watch. I told Clorin not to worry and sent him to bed. The man had barely slept in 3 days and still looked professionally presentable. Respect. Took my wine to the balcony and stared at the moonlit lake while my brain went into overdrive. 3 days of exploring every inch of this island had already given me answers Chlorine couldn't find. Special products? I spotted a coral reef surrounding the island and a hidden valley absolutely bursting with wildflowers. Useless on their own, corals are common in a coastal kingdom. Flowers grow everywhere. But I know how to make soap and perfume, and I can extract salt from seawater since we've got plenty of forest for fuel. Can I reveal these inventions yet? Absolutely not. One whiff of luxury perfume, and some duke would swallow my territory whole. Gotta build up power first. The irrigation problem? Already solved in my head. Water-powered windmill, straight from ancient Chinese engineering. My ancestors were building these things centuries before this world figured out how to season food properly. The farming situation is embarrassingly primitive. They use a one-on, one-off rotation. Half the fields sit empty every year because nobody understands soil nutrition. Weeds everywhere competing with crops. With some basic agricultural knowledge from my past life, I could probably double their yield without breaking a sweat. My master plan is forming. Expand the dock, build shops alongside it, train people to cook real food using techniques I brought from Earth. In a continent where cuisine peaked at, boil meat, add salt, my cooking will be a strategic weapon. Every passing merchant ship will have to stop here once they taste what we're serving. That turns the dock into a commercial hub, which turns produce into cash, which turns cash into power. I'll also write home asking Dad to send monthly trade convoys and spread the word about Coral Manor through family connections. Problems identified. Solutions mapped. Wine finished. Scroll check time. The familiarize yourself with territory quest completed during Chlorine's report, and I'd been too stressed to look at the reward. Now that my brain had quieted down, time to see what my magical post-it note coughed up this time. Scroll reward time. I was expecting gold, soldiers, maybe a cool weapon. Instead I got homework, reward, information about a mysterious creature. Apparently there's some unknown beast living in the coral reefs east of my island. To lure it out, I need to row a boat out at midnight, dump a bowl of my own blood into the ocean, throw in a dead animal, then paddle back to shore as fast as humanly possible. Repeat for 1 month. Then maybe, I can try to tame it. Oh, and the fine print says, recommended. Break through to supernatural first. My brain connected the dots instantly. Mystery ocean creature near coral reefs that requires a supernatural night to contract? That's a phantom beast. A wild, unclaimed phantom beast just chilling in my backyard. And thanks to my past wisdom trait, I can bond with 2 beasts. If this works out, I'm on the path to becoming a chosen knight, the kind of fighter that's unbeatable at equal rank. Only problem? I'm still stuck at 99 out of 100 on my apprentice knight meter. 2 to 3 months of training before I can break through. The Waterlawn family's secret medicine actually saved me years of grinding, even though the scroll ate most of it. Without that passive absorption during healing, I'd be looking at another year or 2 minimum. New quest drop 2. Grow population past 5,000 and create sustainable income. Already had plans for both. Next morning, I dragged Chlorine, Mons, and all 5 village chiefs out to the nearest fallow field for a policy announcement that absolutely nobody was ready for. New rule. No more pooping wherever you want. All waste goes to designated fertilizer stations. Old people and children collect weeds, burn them, mix the ash with the collected materials, let it sit, then spread it on resting fields. This restores soil nutrients and boosts crop yields. I basically invented composting for these people. 5 village chiefs stared at me like I'd suggested they eat the dirt instead. Nobody wanted to speak up. Finally, Tomato Village Chief got shoved forward by the others because he was the youngest. Poor guy started trembling. Your lordship, your command is. I gave him the look. 1 raised eyebrow. That's all it took. Absolutely brilliant. We simple mud-footed farmers could never match your visionary wisdom. Tomato Village will execute your orders to the letter. The other chiefs watched this spectacular backflip in real time, jaws on the floor. Then they noticed me looking at them. Suddenly, everyone was swearing sacred oaths of obedience. Amazing what 1 eyebrow can accomplish. Marched everyone down to the dock next. Chlorine pulled out blueprints I'd had him draw up, and I laid out the master plan. This island sits on a major north-south shipping lane. Every merchant vessel passes nearby. We're going to build a food street at the dock. Each village sends 2 of your best cooks to learn recipes at the manor. 50 workers per village rotate daily for dock construction. Free meals plus 10 copper coins per day. 10 coppers a day. For these people, that's Christmas morning. The chief's hands shot up so fast they nearly dislocated their shoulders. I could literally see them mentally sorting which cousins and brothers-in-law to send first. Do I care about their nepotism? Not even slightly. As long as the dock gets built, they can hire their grandmothers for all I care. I kept the fishing village chief behind after dismissing the others. The poor man looked like he was about to be executed. I told him to relax. I had good news for him specifically, then jumped on my horse and galloped toward fishing village with Mons literally picking up the chief with one hand and plopping him on a horse behind us. The medieval food desert of Westeros has no idea what's about to hit it. Once passing ships taste actual seasoned cuisine, they'll reroute their entire trade routes just to eat lunch here. Took the fishing village chief yak to the beach and invented an entire industry in one afternoon. First, though, military brain kicked in when I saw the coastline. Fishing village sits on the only landable beach besides the dock. Cliffs on both sides, 10 meters straight up. If enemies ever tried storming this beach, I could park archers on those cliffs and turn the whole thing into a shooting gallery. Filed that away under future defense plans and moved on to making money. I pulled out a crucible, had Yak fetch firewood, scooped up some seawater, and announced, "What I'm about to show you is a top-secret operation. This beach gets locked down. 10 families stay, everyone else relocates to the dock. Free meals, meat every other day, 2 silver moons per household monthly, 5 for you personally." Yak's face went from, "I'm losing my ancestral home," to, "I'm rich," in about 3 seconds flat. Then I made salt. From seawater. Something everyone on this continent believes is impossible. Clorin actually interrupted me. "Sir, many people have tried this and all failed." I gave him a look that said, "Watch and learn, butler boy." Step 1. Filter seawater through sand, charcoal, and linen cloth. Step 2. Boil it down to 1/10 volume. Step 3. Scrape off the white gypsum residue on the pot edges. That's the toxic stuff that makes bad salt bitter and dangerous. Step 4. Filter again, discard the brine water. Step 5. Dry fry the remaining white solids until all moisture evaporates. Result? Fine white salt crystals. Not quite table salt from my previous life, but by Westeros standards, premium grade. Worth 70 to 80 silver moons per pound. I started doing the math and my hands began shaking. 20 pounds of seawater makes 1 pound of salt. 5 big iron pots running 24 hours with workers and shifts equals 150 pounds of fine salt daily. At 50 silver per pound wholesale. That's nearly 80 gold coins a day. Over 20,000 gold coins per year, with basically zero production cost. For context, my family's entire barony, one of the strongest in the region, makes about 2,000 gold annually. One salt operation, 10 times my family's income. From seawater, I was vibrating with excitement. Clorin was vibrating with excitement. Then Clorin's face crashed like a server error. "Sir, the profits are too large. We can't protect this. Cold water, meet my face." He was right. If word got out that some teenage lord with zero military power invented costless premium salt production, every noble within 1,000 miles would descend on Coral Manor like sharks on a bleeding fish. Even the Waterlawn Count might not be able to shield me. My mood went from, "I'm gonna be rich," to, "I'm gonna be dead," in record time. The bitter taste of being too weak for your own ideas. I was getting really familiar with it. Solution? Deliberately make worse salt. Add impurities back in, reduce purity, downgrade from premium to medium grade. Sell wholesale at 10 silver per pound. Cap monthly profits at 30 gold coins. Tell everyone we discovered a small salt lake on the island. 300 to 400 gold annually. Enough to be very comfortable, but not enough to get murdered over. The Harrier family's reputation should be enough to protect that level of income. Rode home at sunset doing angry math in my head. I could be making 20,000 gold a year. Instead, I'm capping myself at 400 because I'm too weak to defend my own innovation. That's like owning a Ferrari but driving it in first gear because the road is made of glass. The frustration was suffocating, but it was also the best motivation I'd ever had. Every gold coin I'm leaving on the table is a reminder, get stronger. break through to supernatural, build real military power. Then, and only then, can I unleash the full potential of everything I know. Sunset painted the sky in ridiculous colors as I rode back, and I made myself a promise. No more excuses. Training starts tomorrow. That supernatural breakthrough isn't going to wait 2 or 3 months. I'm going to make it happen faster. 2 months flew by and Coral Manor transformed from a sleepy vacation island into a buzzing commercial hub. Honestly, I impressed even myself. The dock now has over a dozen food stalls running full blast. Every chef personally trained and taste-tested by yours truly before getting the green light. We're serving hot pot, full-course meals, snacks, the works. A merchant fleet from the Frost Crystal Kingdom pulled in today, and their sailors practically stampeded toward the food street. Watching people from a continent of boiled meat discover seasoning for the first time never gets old. Their faces always do this beautiful journey from suspicion to confusion to pure religious ecstasy. My proudest invention? Stir-fried yogurt. It's become so popular that Frost Crystal sailors literally fight over the last serving. I had to build a mediation room at the dock because customers kept getting into arguments over food. A mediation room for snack disputes. I'm running a medieval conflict resolution center because my cooking is too good. The military side shaped up nicely too. Mons recruited 50 guys, trained them for 50 brutal days. Morning fitness, afternoon combat, evening literacy classes, and cut it down to the 30 best. One of them, a kid named Alex from Fishing Village, apparently thinks I'm a God-sent savior. Can't blame him. The guy went from starving fisherman to uniformed soldier with 10 acres of land, free food, meat every other day, and 2 silver coins monthly. I also announced that outstanding service could earn serfs their freedom. Half the graduating class nearly fainted. The water crisis? Solved. Built a water-powered windmill from wood. Ancient Chinese engineering, baby, that pumps lake water across the entire territory. Then I designed what people are now calling the green plow, which only needs 1 ox to work massive fields. In 1 month, we cleared over 10,000 acres of new farmland. The soil's been treated with my composting method, so it's rich enough to grow without rotation. New settlement, Onion Village. Named after the crop I introduced there. Houses all the newly purchased workers and military families. I'm basically founding neighborhoods at this point. The salt operation is running quietly on the sealed-off beach, deliberately making medium-grade salt, capping profits at 30 gold monthly, telling everyone we found a small salt lake. It physically hurts to throttle my own cash machine, but staying alive beats being rich and dead. Payday today. Watched Clorin and Mons hand out wages at the barracks. The soldiers lined up like kids on Christmas morning. Alex clutched his 2 silver coins like they were made of diamond and tucked them into his shirt. The kid's already planning to save up for a wife in 2 or 3 years. Seeing my people go from starving to thriving in 60 days, that hits different. Even if I can't use my full potential yet, even if I'm deliberately making bad salt and hiding my best ideas, the progress is real. The dock is alive. The fields are green. Nobody's hungry. Nobody's getting whipped for missing tax quotas. Not bad for a guy who was buying dragon figurines at a crosswalk 2 lifetimes ago. 2 months of non-stop grinding, and I finally got to sit down with a glass of fancy red wine and look at the numbers. Spoiler, I'm basically a medieval startup CEO and business is booming. Let me break down my financial empire for you. Food street revenue, 41 gold coins in 6 weeks, now steady at 30 plus monthly. From snacks, I'm generating Viscount-level income from hot pot and stir-fried yogurt. If my past life self could see me now, the guy who couldn't even cook instant noodles properly, he'd have a stroke. Salt operation, 80 gold coins for 2 months production, sold exclusively through my family at inflated, family discount, prices. Dad's exact words, can't shortchange my own kid. The man charged 30% above market rate to his own merchants for me. Father of the year, every year. Total assets, 940 gold coins. Total monthly expenses, about 40 gold. Monthly surplus, over 70 gold. I'm out earning some barren families, and I've been a lord for 2 months. Population hit 5,000 today, 400 new workers arrived and got settled into Onion Village. Quest requirement, check. But my island can theoretically support 15,000 people, so I've got a 10,000 person gap to fill. Signed deals with 3 slave trading companies for 1,000 workers monthly, half male, half female, 30 silver each after bulk discount. The math problem? That's 300 gold a month for 10 months. 3,000 gold total. My entire savings plus 10 months of income doesn't even cover it. Considered asking Dad for a loan, but that would crush the family budget. My Galaxy Brain solution: pay half in cash, half in salt. Each delivery costs 150 gold plus 1,500 pounds of salt split between 3 traders. Deliveries staggered so nobody notices. The Salt Lake is suspiciously productive. Risky? Absolutely. But I've got backup. Dad wrote me a letter. He's hit the Grand Knight breakthrough threshold and is in close training. If he succeeds by year's end, that's Viscount level power. Big Brother Gervais is also coming home to inherit the family phantom beast, adding another Baron-level fighter. And me? Pulled up my character sheet and smiled at the most beautiful number I've ever seen. Apprentice Knight. 100 out of 100 maxed out. 2 months of nightly meditation sessions, and my supernatural energy is fully refined. Breakthrough is imminent. Once I punch through, we'll have 1 near Viscount, 2 Barons, and me as a fresh supernatural knight, making the Harrier family the strongest vassal house under the Waterlawn banner by far. The Count will have every reason to protect us, especially with my special friendship with Norton. At that level of backing, 200 to 300 gold monthly income is absolutely defensible. Nobody's going to mess with a family fielding that much firepower over some salt money. I swirled my wine, stared at the moonlit lake, and allowed myself one rare moment of satisfaction. 2 months ago, I arrived here with bandage marks still on my skin and zero idea how to run a territory. Now I've got a food empire, a salt operation, a growing army, expanding farmland, a water-powered irrigation system, a professional butler, a 7-foot bodyguard, and I'm about to break into the supernatural realm. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a ceiling to shatter. 2 quests completed in 1 day. Population hit 5,000, and the food street counted as a sustainable income source before the salt operation did. My stir-fried yogurt literally beat industrial salt manufacturing to the finish line. Take that, chemistry. The reward, though? Mons gets his hero spirit awakened to night level. His past life memories will trickle in through dreams, like binge-watching his own previous existence while sleeping. The scroll specifically noted it won't change his personality, just unlock ancient combat knowledge. My giant bodyguard is about to download a warrior expansion pack directly into his brain. While napping. New quest. Break through to supernatural. The scroll's tone felt almost sarcastic, like, "Hey buddy, you've been at 99 out of 100 for months. Maybe do something about it." I stared at the lake feeling personally attacked by a magical post-it. Note, then went to check on my bugs. Yes, my bugs. In the garden's restricted shed, no fire allowed. Trespassers get hanged. 3 Harrier spirit bugs live in wooden boxes lined with grass. These little guys look like white caterpillars with tiny bird beaks, which is simultaneously adorable and deeply unsettling. I hand-fed each one an iron ingot. Watched a worm the size of my thumb casually chomp through solid metal like it was candy. Then I dug through their grass bedding and collected their droppings. Tiny steel pellets called Harrier steel, one of the rarest forging materials in existence. My nightly routine: pour expensive wine, pet metal-eating caterpillars, collect magical poop. Living the noble life. 3 days later. Breakthrough time. The training room was 30 square meters of pure silence. Walls coated in Phantom Beast soundproofing material. No windows, a dozen glow lamps turning midnight into noon. Just me, a meditation cushion, and 3 potions that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. Blue bottle, water snake training elixir. Mom's goodbye gift. Market value, 150 gold coins. Supercharges supernatural energy into overdrive. Red bottle, heart guardian potion. 70 gold. Protects your heart during breakthrough because, fun fact, the life seed forms inside your heart. And if something goes wrong, your heart seizes up and you die on the spot. Just casually risking cardiac arrest in my basement. Normal Tuesday. Purple bottle, mind focus potion. 30 gold. Keeps your brain sharp and clear like being dunked in ice water. Essential for precisely controlling energy flow. 250 gold coins worth of liquid courage sitting in front of me. dragon, or worm. This moment decides everything. Deep breath. Purple potion first. Cool sensation flooding down my throat into my brain, washing away every stray thought until my mind was a crystal-clear lake. Perfect focus achieved. Then both remaining potions at once. The red one rushed to my heart, wrapping it in a protective red glow. The blue one hit my supernatural energy like a match hitting gasoline. My pathetic little white energy reserves exploded to life, particles dancing and churning like a snowstorm inside my body. Now the hard part. I seized every single energy particle with my willpower and forced them toward my heart. Imagine trying to herd 10,000 fireflies into a jar using nothing but your thoughts. The energy resisted, writhed, fought back, but I kept pushing, compressing, squeezing. An apple-sized ball of white energy, shrinking, until it became a marble-sized pearl sitting in my heart. Inside it, something liquid was flowing. My life seed was forming. Sweat poured down my face like rain. Veins bulged on my forehead. My teeth were clamped so hard I thought they'd crack. The pearl kept compressing, vibrating, shaking, my heart hammering so loud it could wake the dead. Then, a full-body convulsion. I fell backward, smacked the floor, and lay there gasping like a landed fish. Every muscle felt like wet paper. I shakily raised my right hand in front of my face. A soft white glow pulsed from my palm. Finally, I actually did it. I laughed out loud, lying on the floor in a puddle of my own sweat, staring at a glowing hand. Supernatural. I'm officially supernatural. The most dangerous part of this entire journey, condensing the life seed, kills people regularly. Noble kids die or become cripples every year attempting this. And I just survived it. Everything after this is accumulation, filling the seed with energy until it's ready to expand for the next rank. Fail that expansion and the seed cracks, costing years of repair. But that's a future problem. Right now, in this moment, lying on a wet cushion in a soundproof basement lit by magical glow sticks, I am a supernatural knight. The dragon figurine kid from the crosswalk just leveled up, walked out of the training room, and discovered an entire day had passed. Went in at sunrise, came out to stars. Time flies when you're squeezing your soul into a marble and trying not to die. Clorin was waiting at the door like the world's most patient butler statue. One look at me walking out alive, and he knew. Congratulations, my lord, on entering the supernatural realm. May you one day shine like the blazing sun itself. Very poetic. Very touching. My stomach, however, had zero interest in poetry. Thanks, Clorin. I could eat a horse. Possibly 2 horses. Is there food? He'd kept the kitchen on standby the entire time because he didn't know when I'd emerge. This man deserves a raise. Also mentioned that Mons had been sitting in the dining hall waiting for me about something urgent. Weird. Mons isn't exactly the, let's chat about our feelings, type. Showered quickly, hair still dripping, and walked into the dining hall to find my giant sitting ramrod straight in full armor, naturally, next to a table overflowing with food. He stood, bowed, apologized for the late visit, and said he had a difficult problem. I waved it off, sat down, and started demolishing the food like a man possessed. Breakthrough hunger is no joke. I ate so fast I temporarily forgot every etiquette lesson I'd ever learned. Talk while I eat, I said through a mouthful of steak. Sir, I've been having dreams. Every night, I dream I'm someone else. My fork paused. This was the hero spirit awakening. Playing dumb, I told him to elaborate. Mons described his dream self. Same name, same build. Born in the year 2170, one of the creation calendar. Back then, the Southern Ocean was called the Chaotic Sea, hundreds of pirate-controlled islands, way bigger than the current territory. Dream Mons was born into a small pirate crew led by his supernatural-level parents. The kid was a prodigy. Combat talent showing at 5 or 6, joining raids at 13, becoming the undisputed heir by 16. Under his leadership, a nobody pirate gang grew into a feared force. Classic rags to riches pirate story. Then everything went sideways. During a raid Mons commanded, he accidentally killed an inland count's eldest son. The count went nuclear, posted massive bounties, borrowed an entire fleet from a coastal noble family, and personally led the hunt. A month of relentless pursuit shredded the pirate crew. Mons broke through to supernatural under the pressure, but his parents died fighting to buy him time. At this point in the story, Mons's eyes went red. The 7-foot armored killing machine was tearing up over dream parents he never actually had. The hero's spirit memories are that vivid. I accidentally laughed, couldn't help it, and caught a look of wounded betrayal from my bodyguard that could melt steel. Sorry. Continue. He gave me one last hurt look and pressed on. Cornered and outmatched, Dream Mons led his pursuers into a death zone he'd discovered. A stretch of ocean filled with massive whirlpools that only appear on full moon nights. The ocean swallowed everything. The Count, the fleet, Mons, all gone. But Mons survived, washed into an underground cave with no water inside, just a dying blood-red shark. A phantom beast. On its last breath, Dream Mons did what any desperate pirate would do, signed a contract with it immediately. And then, I asked, rinsing my mouth. Mons scratched his messy hair with a sheepish grin. That's it. Haven't had tonight's dream yet. This man has panda-level dark circles under his eyes from losing sleep over serialized dream content. He's binge-watching his own past life one episode per night, and came to me because he's worried he's going crazy. I reassured him casually, just stress dreams, don't worry, tonight should be fine, knowing full well it was the scroll's doing and the dreams were completely real. He panicked. Sir, I'm not lying. I even remember combat techniques from the dreams. There are words I can't read, but somehow understand. I waved him down. I believe you. Relax. Then I dropped the serious face. Full Lord mode activated. Mons straightened up like a soldier hearing a general. Listen carefully. Everything you dream, everything, stays between you and me. Not a single detail to anyone else. If you have more dreams, report to me immediately. And those combat techniques? Practice them. Hard. Understood, he nodded frantically. A man with ancient pirate warrior memories downloading into his brain every night, being told by his teenage lord to keep it secret and train harder. What a world. Gave him tomorrow off because the poor guy looked like he hadn't slept properly in days, then dragged myself to bed. One supernatural breakthrough and one hero awakening in the same 24 hours. My most productive day in 2 lifetimes. Tomorrow, figure out how to befriend a mysterious ocean creature using bowls of my own blood and dead animals at midnight. You know, normal lord stuff. Lying in bed after my breakthrough, I checked the scroll and got hit with a plot twist I did not expect. Remember the mysterious creature quest? The one requiring midnight blood offerings and dead animals? Well, the breakthrough quest reward just replaced it with better intel. Turns out there's no mysterious creature swimming around. There's an unhatched phantom beast EGG sitting in an underwater cave beneath the coral reef. A blood shark egg. In hibernation. 3 days of feeding it my supernatural blood, and I can wake it up and sign a contract. 3 days. Not 30. 3. The scroll basically said, hey, that whole month-long feeding ritual. Still do it. But also here's the real prize hidden underneath. But then my brain started doing something dangerous, thinking. The coincidences are piling up way too high. Mons, a reincarnated pirate hero from this exact ocean. His phantom beast, a blood shark, conveniently hibernating under My Island. Clorin, riding a slave ship that just happened to pass through My Dock. Everything connected to Coral Manor specifically. 2 explanations. Either the scroll adapts to wherever I end up, like a GPS recalculating the route, giving me locally relevant rewards regardless of location. Or, the scroll knew I'd get Coral Manor. Knew before I knew. Possibly before the Count knew. Which means this thing can predict, or worse, manipulate, other people's decisions. That second option kept me staring at the ceiling for a solid 10 minutes. If the scroll is sentient and puppeteering my destiny, what's its endgame? Am I the player or the piece? Then I did what any rational person would do, shrugged, and went to sleep. Whatever cosmic chess game is happening, I'm currently winning. If some all-powerful scroll entity wants to keep handing me free soldiers, butlers, and phantom beasts, who am I to complain? If it turns evil later, I'm too weak to fight it anyway. Might as well ride the wave. Next night. Midnight. East coast of Coral Manor. Rowing out over the coral reef was genuinely magical. Beneath the boat, the reef stretched 70 to 80 meters from the cliff edge into open ocean, a massive underwater garden glowing with tiny lights. Bioluminescent bugs or fish drifting through the coral like living stars. If my past life self could have turned this into a resort, I'd have made billions. The practical stuff was less romantic. I'd bought 40 cattle from the Harrier territory specifically for this. Coral Manor doesn't raise beef cows, and I couldn't butcher the work oxen. Slaughtered one that morning and loaded the carcass onto a fishing boat. Rowed out to exactly 100 meters from shore. Took a deep breath. Pulled out a small bowl. Held my left wrist over it. Grabbed a dagger with my right hand and sliced my own vein open. Fun fact, cutting yourself on purpose hurts exactly as much as you'd expect. Blood filled the bowl while I sat there calmly questioning every life decision that led to this moment. Once full, I channeled my baby's supernatural energy to heal the wound, which worked but ate up half my total power reserves. Blazing Sun Nights can regenerate entire limbs. I can barely close a paper cut. Levels matter. Wash the blood off my hand in the ocean. Waste not. Want not. Every drop counts. Then dump the bowl into the sea. Blood clouds spread through the dark water like horror movie special effects. Then I one-handed a whole dead cow over the side of the boat. Let's go, I told Mons. He started rowing us back without a word. What I didn't see, a 5 to 6 meter shadow exploding up from the depths, sinking its fangs into the cow and absorbing my blood like a sponge. The mysterious creature was real and hungry. This became my life for an entire month. Sleep until afternoon, handle 0 administrative duties, sneak out at midnight to feed the ocean my blood and a dead cow. Clorin and Mons knew what was happening. Everyone else thought their workaholic lord had suddenly become the laziest noble in history. Fortunately, Clorin is so competent that the territory ran itself without me. September 1st. Day 30. Tonight was different. After tossing the cow overboard, I didn't leave. I stayed on the boat, floating in the darkness, staring at black water, heart hammering. 1 month of blood and beef, all building to this moment. Every previous night, I'd resisted the urge to peek underwater, terrified of scaring whatever was down there. No sounds, no sightings, nothing but faith in a magical brain scroll and 40 dead cows. Tonight, the mystery ends. The veil comes off, and honestly, I'm terrified and excited in equal measure. Somewhere beneath this boat is my first phantom beast, a creature that will define my combat potential for the rest of this life. A blood shark that once belonged to a legendary pirate 1,000 years ago. Please don't be tiny. Please don't be tiny. Day 30. Final feeding night. This time, I didn't row away. Tossed the cow overboard like usual and waited. My heart was doing drum solos in my chest. The dark water was silent. Then, movement. A 6 to 7 meter shadow erupted from below, clamped onto the cow with rows of serrated teeth, and demolished 700 pounds of beef in minutes. Not a single bone left. This thing eats like me after breakthrough training. The creature turned to leave, then suddenly froze. Swung around, locked onto my boat, and charged directly at me like a torpedo. Before I could even scream, it launched out of the water, sailed completely over our heads, blocking out the moonlight for a terrifying split second, and cannonballed back into the ocean. The splash hit us like a fire hydrant. Mons and I were instantly soaked. The boat rocked so violently I grabbed the sides with both hands and reconsidered every life choice. Then, silence. 1 minute. 2 minutes. A massive head slowly surfaced. Under the moonlight, I finally saw my phantom beast. A jet-black shark-whale hybrid. Imagine a whale shark, but scary, with white speckles on its back, a mouth full of saw-blade teeth, and a tiny white spiral horn on its forehead. Like a unicorn of the sea. The most terrifyingly adorable thing I've ever seen. And it was staring at me, with big, round, pitch-black eyes that somehow looked cute, needy, like a giant murder puppy wanting head scratches. My hand moved on its own, reached out, touched its head. It purred. This 6-meter ocean predator made a sound like a snoring kitten. Then it bumped my hand with its giant head, and suddenly we were just playing, booping each other like 2 dumb kids at a playground. A teenage lord and a building-sized shark doing nose touches under the moonlight. If anyone saw this, they'd think we were both insane. After 15 minutes of this, I pulled my hand back, looked this magnificent beast dead in its adorable murder eyes, and asked formally, "Would you like to be my partner and sign a contract with me?" Phantom beasts have the intelligence of an 11-year-old. They understand human speech. They also have opinions. I wasn't going to force this. Even with the scroll's guarantee, consent matters. The shark's dark eyes shifted, thinking. 5 minutes of silence that felt like 5 hours. Then it gently leaned its massive head against my boat. Yes, I was grinning so hard my face hurt. Patted its head and made the most sacred promise I could. Don't worry. From now on, you'll never miss a meal. Priorities, people. Drew my dagger, sliced my palm open. Again, my poor hands are running out of uncut skin, and painted mystical symbols on my face and the shark's head using blood. Under the moonlight, these symbols glowed with a holy yet slightly creepy crimson light. Then I chanted the ancient contract incantation in the language of the gods. Words I can pronounce, but don't actually understand. Something about eternal bonds, sharing fate, blah blah blah. The important part, once signed, this contract is permanent. If the beast dies, the knight becomes a cripple or dies. If the knight dies, the beast dies. No refunds, no exchanges, no divorce attorneys. The blood symbols flashed scarlet, then vanished. Instantly, I could feel the shark's emotions, excitement, curiosity, joy. A phantom beast pocket dimension materialized around me. A special space where the beast can sleep while its energy automatically trains my supernatural power. Free passive XP gain. My cheat system has a cheat system. Then the shark, my shark, nudged its horn toward me. Instinct screamed, touch it. I wrapped my hand around the spiral horn, and information flooded my brain. 15 minutes of data download later, I understood everything. And my jaw was on the ocean floor. This shark's name is Ming Yin, the nether cold giant shark. Current length, 6 to 7 meters. Adult size, 25 meters. That's a medium-sized merchant ship, with teeth. And every rank up makes it bigger. By blazing sun level, we're talking potentially 100 meters. I would own a living submarine. But wait, IT gets better. Ming Yin is an elemental phantom beast. Most phantom beasts just boost physical stats. Elemental ones are rare and control actual forces of nature. Ming Yin's element? Nether cold flame, a blue fire that burns at -100 degrees, freezing everything it touches. Currently, it can only make a fist-sized flame because it's still young, but at star level? Elemental weapons. Elemental armor. Every attack and defense carrying freeze properties. Oh, and did I mention it's still a baby? I thought 6 meters meant fully grown. Nope. This is a juvenile. A puppy. A puppy that will eventually be the length of a football field and shoot ice fire. The scroll really said, here's the most overpowered thing I could find, and delivered. And the spirit bugs. Ming Yin came with 10 companion spirit bugs that convert iron into ice crystal steel, one of the rarest materials on the continent, found only in the far north. This stuff makes armor so tough that even star-level knights struggle to break through. 12 pounds annually, worth 100 gold per pound. That's 1,200 gold just from raw material, or 2,000 plus if forged into equipment. An income stream that makes my salt operation look like a lemonade stand. I spent a few more minutes cuddling my new ice fire shark baby, confirmed all the details, then sent Ming Yin into the phantom beast pocket dimension. Turned to find Mon's frozen solid. Not from ice magic, just from pure shock. His eyes were dinner plates. His mouth was hanging open. The man had just watched his teenage lord tame a legendary sea monster by moonlight. I patted his shoulder. Train hard enough, and you'll get your own phantom beast someday. He blinked, nodded slowly, and started rowing us home in complete stunned silence. Sitting in that little boat, soaking wet, blood drying on my face, I couldn't stop smiling. Somewhere in my chest, I could feel Ming Yin's heartbeat alongside mine. 2 lives beating as one. The dragon figurine kid from the crosswalk now has an ice fire mega shark. Life is good. While I was busy cuddling my new ice fire shark baby and feeling like the king of the world, something very bad was happening on the ocean that I knew absolutely nothing about. I found out the details much later, and let me tell you, it wiped the smile right off my face. Here's what went down. The Gorenlin merchant fleet, one of the 3 slave trading companies I'd been paying with half cash, half salt, was sailing through the waters between the Land Whale Duchy and the Frost Crystal Kingdom. Normal route. Business as usual. They spotted the familiar flag of the Bloodsaw pirate crew, who they'd been paying 20 gold coins per trip for safe passage. Standard arrangement. Bloodsaw was actually a pretty decent pirate. Took his protection money, kept his word. Sometimes even escorted merchant ships for free if he was in a good mood. Real professional criminal. So the merchant convoy relaxed. Let the ships approach. Zero defenses. Wrong move. Bloodsaw was dead, murdered by a psychopath named Crazy Wolf, who'd taken over the territory and kept flying Bloodsaw's flag specifically to trick incoming merchants. Classic identity theft, pirate edition. Crazy Wolf's crew swarmed the convoy. Ships burning. People screaming. The hired supernatural knight, the one expensive bodyguard protecting the entire fleet, got his limbs torn off and his skull crushed with bare fists. Crazy Wolf is apparently the kind of guy who kills supernatural warriors with his hands for fun. The convoy manager ended up kneeling in the captain's room, clutching a stomach wound, surrounded by dead bodies, facing a giant with a battle axe and a face made entirely of scars and bad intentions. Then things got worse. For me, a weaselly pirate named Quick Fish, Crazy Wolf's new right-hand suck-up, ran in to report they'd found 5,000 to 6,000 pounds of salt in the cargo hold. Good quality stuff. Quick Fish used to be Bloodsaw's third-in-command before switching teams faster than you can say, zero loyalty. But more importantly, and this is the part that made my blood run cold when I heard it, Quick Fish grew up in Coral Manor. He was a hunter there before accidentally killing someone and fleeing to become a pirate. He knows my island like the back of his hand. There's no salt lake in Coral Manor, Quick Fish declared. I grew up there. Knew every tree, every rock. No salt lake exists. The new lord must have some secret method for making salt. Crazy Wolf's scarred face twisted into a grin. The kind of grin that precedes very bad things happening to very unlucky people. The convoy manager had spilled everything trying to save his own skin. The slave for salt trades, the monthly deliveries, the small salt lake cover story. He thought giving useful information would earn him mercy. Quick Fish's smirk told him otherwise. The manager never even saw what killed him. Just sudden pain in his neck, cold spreading through his body, and darkness. So let me tally up the disaster. A ruthless pirate warlord who crushes supernatural knights with his bare hands now knows where I live, that I'm making salt through a secret process, and that my island is worth raiding. His new advisor literally has a mental map of my entire territory, including every possible landing point and defensive weakness. And I was at home, petting spirit bugs and drinking 30 silver wine, completely oblivious. The universe giveth an ice fire megashark. The universe taketh away my peaceful sleep. Late December hit coral territory, and the weather finally chilled out, literally. 20 degrees during the day, which honestly felt like paradise after months of tropical sweat. Even in the coldest months, it never drops below 10. Living on a tropical island has its perks. Me, Crowrin, and Mons hopped on our horses for a territory inspection tour. Hadn't done one in 3 months, and boy, things had changed. We'd gone from a modest little settlement to a bustling population of 8,000 or 9,000 people spread across 9 farming villages. Each one got a name based on what they produced: barley village, wheat village, tomato village, cabbage village, fishing village, onion village, cabbage village, yes, a different cabbage, potato village, and my personal masterpiece, pig village. Now, pig village deserves its own story. I bought hundreds of pig beasts from the mainland. Think pigs, but imagine if a pig rolled in something absolutely foul and then decided that smell was its entire personality. Rich people wouldn't touch them. Poor people couldn't afford them. A total business disaster. Until genius over here had a brilliant idea. Chop off their bits. Castrate the lot. Boom, stink gone. Just the other day, I roasted one of the young ones out of curiosity, and let me tell you, delicious. I basically invented roast suckling pig for this world, and nobody's even thanking me yet. Every village had about 1,000 people, and I'd carefully planned out crop diversity so we weren't putting all our eggs in one basket, or all our potatoes in one village. Well, technically, yes. All the potatoes were in one village, but you get the point. As we rode into Onion Village, slaves on both sides of the road dropped to their knees bowing. Not gonna lie, that never gets old. The whole territory worshipped me at this point, not because I'm some tyrannical overlord, but because I actually fed them. Revolutionary concept, apparently. Don't starve your people and they'll like you. Someone should write that in a leadership manual. In the center of the village, Alex was drilling over 400 young men in military formation. Spears thrusting, shields locking, lines forming. The whole thing looked surprisingly professional for a bunch of farmers in burlap, clothes holding pointy sticks. 2 weeks ago, I'd issued a decree. Every able-bodied man between 16 and 40 had to do 2 months of concentrated military training after harvest, plus 1 hour every morning. Mandatory. No exceptions. No excuses. My standing army? A grand total of 100 professional soldiers. Tiny, I know, but I gave them an official name anyway. The Netherflame Army, named after my phantom beast, the Netherflame giant shark. Even designed a battle flag with the shark on it. Looked absolutely badass, if I do say so myself. 80 of those 100 soldiers came from the villages and rotated guard duty, so whoever was off duty that day ran the training sessions. Today was Alex's turn to play drill sergeant. He stood on a mound barking orders like he was born for it. These farm boys were moving in formation, advancing, retreating, attacking, defending, like actual soldiers. When they bunched up, they looked like an unbreakable wall. When they spread out, they flowed like mercury. Kid had talent. Then Alex spotted us riding up. He froze for a second, clearly about to run over and salute me like a good little soldier. But then, and this is why I liked him, his eyes flickered with something clever. Instead of jogging over like a puppy, he whipped out his sword, raised it high, and screamed at the top of his lungs. Long live Lord Green. Glory to the Netherflame Army. 400 men absolutely lost their minds. Spears pumping in the air, shields getting hammered. The noise was thunderous enough to scare birds off trees 3 villages over. Standing there watching these fired-up young men screaming my name, I couldn't help but grin like an idiot. Best decision I ever made. Here's the thing. I'd been chewing on this military problem long before I even arrived at Coral Territory. Across all of Westeros, warfare followed the same depressing formula. Throw waves of untrained slaves at the enemy until they're exhausted, then send in your handful of real soldiers to finish the job. Brutal, wasteful, and honestly kind of stupid. The math was grim. Most lords kept a ratio of 1 professional soldier for every 100 to 150 slaves. Some lazy inland lords who hadn't seen a fight in decades stretched it to 1 to 300. Professional soldiers were expensive. Weapons, armor, salary, training, food, housing. Slaves? Hand them a pointy stick and shove them forward. Cheap as dirt and just as disposable. My solution? Steal an idea from ancient Chinese history, the military farming colony system. After harvest, farmers have nothing to do anyway. Might as well teach them how to stab things properly. Cost me almost nothing, just 2 meals a day, which we had plenty of since Coral Territory was actually producing surplus grain. I didn't care about the measly few dozen to 100 gold coins from selling extra food. I had bigger plans. The benefits were stacking up beautifully. First, crime dropped like a rock. Turns out when people are exhausted from farming all day and drilling all evening, they don't have energy left to cause trouble. Funny how that works. Second, and this was the juicy part, within a year or 2, every young man in my territory would be trained to the level of a regular professional soldier. Sure, their equipment was garbage right now, but the moment I armed them properly, instant army of 6,000 to 7,000 trained fighters. Any lord showing up with their typical mixed force of professional soldiers and cannon fodder slaves, even with 20,000 men, would get absolutely demolished. Third, these trained farmers doubled as a recruitment pool for the real army. Need replacements? Pick the best performers from the villages. Endless supply. I watched Alex standing at perfect attention, back straight as a spear, and nodded approvingly. Turned to Mons beside me. That soldier's got potential. Keep an eye on him. Then I kicked my horse forward. Still had 3 or 4 more villages to inspect, and the sun wasn't getting any higher. Behind me, Mons gave a serious nod, then hung back just long enough to flash Alex a thumbs up before trotting after me. December 28th, nighttime. Stars blazing overhead. The whole territory dead quiet because everyone with any sense had gone to bed hours ago. But not us. No, we were having our annual year-end meeting in the Manor's banquet hall, lit up like a chandelier store on opening day. I sat at the head of the table with Crowern on my left and Mons on my right. Crowern was wearing his signature tailcoat and white gloves combo, the same outfit he wore in blistering heat, in freezing cold, in rain, in sunshine. At this point, I was genuinely starting to wonder if the man owned a single other piece of clothing. Did he sleep in that thing? Did he have a closet full of identical tailcoats like some kind of anime character? The mystery haunted me. Then there was Mons, gleaming in his eternal suit of armor, polished so bright I could check my teeth in the reflection. The first time I saw him in it, I thought he looked like an absolute warrior god. Now, after months of staring at the same shiny tin can every single day, yeah, the novelty had worn off a bit. I cleared my throat with a little cough. Let's get this started. Crowran, you're up. Yes, my lord. He flipped open his notebook. The man was nothing if not organized, and launched into it. Coral Territory currently has 9,231 residents. Per your instructions, we grant 10 outstanding citizens their freedom each month as motivation. All professional soldiers and village chiefs automatically have their slave contracts voided. Including the salt production supervisor, we now have 160 free citizens. Of the total population, 4,506 are male and 4,725 are female. Age breakdown: 434 people over 50, making up about 4.7%. Around 2,135 are over 40. The 16 and up group is our largest at 5,626. Children under 16 number 1,036. I nodded, running the numbers in my head. Way too many young adults, not nearly enough kids. For long-term growth, that ratio was a problem. After the Creation Festival, first thing you do is post an announcement encouraging people to have babies. Throw in some incentives. Every household gets free monthly grain for each child under 16. Cap it at 4 kids per family, though. We're not running a puppy mill. Crowran whipped out his quill pen and scribbled every word down like he was transcribing sacred scripture. When he looked up and saw me nod, he continued. Following your decree requiring all skilled workers to take on at least 2 apprentices, plus our purchases of specialists from slave traders, our professional workforce has grown significantly. We now have shipbuilders, fishermen, blacksmiths, carpenters, hunters, tailors, butchers, barbers, and various other trades. 188 professionals and 402 apprentices in total. The word barber hit me and my brain immediately spiraled into a flashback. When I first heard we had barbers, I thought, great, haircuts, civilization. Then one day a slave got his leg crushed by a falling tree, and Crowran casually sent the poor guy to the barber. Naturally, being curious and also confused, I followed. The barber took one look at the broken leg, didn't even blink, and reached for a saw. He was about to amputate the whole leg like he was trimming a hedge. I nearly had a heart attack and tackled the guy before he could start cutting. Turns out, in this world, barbers double as surgeons, and their entire medical philosophy could be summarized as, something wrong with it? Chop it off. Still wrong? Drain some blood. It was basically medieval healthcare speedrunning. Except every patient was the one getting speedrun into the grave. After wrestling control of the situation, I managed to set the bone and splint it properly. Then I spent an entire day writing the Coral Territory Medical Handbook, from whatever first aid knowledge I remembered from my previous life. Handed it to the barber surgeon with strict orders to memorize every page. You're welcome, entire territory, for not getting your limbs randomly sawed off anymore. I must have been staring into space reliving that trauma for a while, because Crowran coughed pointedly twice. Right. Meeting. Still happening. Continue, I said, snapping back. Moving on to this year's industry report. In the second half of the year, under your guidance, all farming and livestock villages saw explosive production increases. Total grain and vegetable tax revenue, 630,000 gene. Fish catch, 130,000 gene. Salt production scaled up over 10 times to meet slave trade demands. Over 30,000 gene produced this year, with 5,952 gene remaining in storage. Pig Village added 12 cattle calves and 241 pig beast piglets. Since the village is new, no grain output yet. Excluding slave trade, total income was 246 gold luminance coins. The food street has been open 4 months with a net income of 153 gold coins. Slave purchases and daily expenses totaled 993 gold coins. Current treasury balance, 346 gold coins. At our current income rate, we can sustain operations for approximately 2 more months. My lord, perhaps we should pause slave acquisitions for now. 993 gold coins. Just hearing that number gave me a migraine. That was nearly what some broke Viscounts earned in an entire year, and I'd burned through it in 6 months. If I wanted to hit my targets, I needed at least another half year of buying, which meant a gap of roughly 700 gold coins staring me in the face. My brain went into full scramble mode, mentally rifling through every valuable thing I owned. The Frost Steel, about 3 gene worth, maybe 300 gold coins. The Harrier Steel needed more time to accumulate enough for 2 sets of equipment, but that could fetch around 120 gold coins. Still short by over 200. Which meant, I'd probably have to go crawling back to my family for a loan. Not exactly the triumphant homecoming I'd envisioned. But hey, cobbled together or not, the math technically worked. My shoulders relaxed a fraction. Don't stop buying slaves. This is about Coral Territory's long-term future. I'll handle the funding. Crowren knew better than to argue when I used that tone. He wrapped up his report, and both of us turned to look at Mons. Mons flinched like a deer caught in torchlight. This was his first time giving a formal report, and the poor guy was visibly sweating through his armor, which, impressive, because that thing was sealed tight. He fumbled open his notebook, and I got a glimpse of the contents. It looked like a toddler had attacked a piece of paper with a quill while riding a horse during an earthquake. Absolute chicken scratch. Hieroglyphics would have been more legible. I was 90% sure even Mons couldn't read his own writing. And my lord, he stammered, we currently have 100 professional soldiers. 20 stationed at the manor, 50 at the docks, 30 at the salt fields. They rotate shifts, so every village gets daily training supervision. Total militia across all villages, 2,631 men. First phase of basic training is complete. Phase 2 begins after the Creation Festival. He peeked up at me nervously. I gave him an encouraging look. You're doing great, buddy. Keep going. Equipment status. We've consolidated nearly every blacksmith in the territory into a centralized forge-running assembly line production. The Netherflame army is fully equipped. For the militia, 2,000 spearheads have been distributed. Iron-plated wooden shields are more complicated to make, so only 1,300 have been issued, but we've increased manpower on the production line. Full deployment expected within 1 month. I nodded, doing quick projections in my head. By end of next year, we should have about 5,000 combat-ready militia. Blacksmith production was on track, full equipment by August, maybe. Not bad for a territory that started with nothing but dirt, slaves, and a guy who remembered how to set a broken bone. After the reports wrapped up, the 3 of us chatted casually for a while. Nothing groundbreaking, just winding down. Tomorrow morning, we'd ride out early, heading back to Sea Harrier Fortress for the holiday. As I headed to bed, one thought kept bouncing around my skull. 993. Gold coins gone in 6 months, a treasury running on fumes, and my grand plan for world domination funded by a patchwork of rare metals and family guilt trips. Truly, the glamorous life of a feudal lord. December 29th. Beautiful day, clear skies, gentle breeze, 0% chance of existential dread. Or so I thought. I stood on the gangplank of the merchant ship, gave Crowren and Mons a casual wave goodbye, and hopped aboard. They couldn't come with me back to the family estate for the Creation Festival. Somebody had to babysit the territory. See, back when Coral Territory belonged to Earl Waterlawn, pirates wouldn't dare sneeze in this direction. Nobody messes with an earl. But now, it belonged to me, a teenager. Some idiot pirates might get brave during the holidays when everyone's guard is down, thinking they could waltz in and help themselves. Not on my watch. Well, technically not on Crowren and Mons's watch, since I was literally leaving. But I had great news waiting for me at home. Father had finally broken through his bottleneck and advanced to Grand Knight, a full-blown transcendent. He'd gone to Earl Waterlawn for the official ceremony, and just like that, the Sea Harrier family leveled up from a baron house to a viscount house. We'd officially escaped the bottom tier of nobility. When I first heard, I practically did a backflip. Father and Big Brother were waiting for me in Waterlawn City, so we could all travel home together. If it weren't for unfinished business at Coral Territory, I would have sprinted there weeks ago. Now, the other piece of news, and this one made me feel some very complicated emotions, was about Mons. That absolute freak of nature had reached the threshold of breaking through to transcendent in just 4 months. 4 months. Let me put this in perspective. I started training at 13, I'm almost 19 now, and I just broke through. I had training potions. I used the Waterlawn family's legendary secret elixir. I had every advantage in the book. Mons had a suit of armor and a battle axe. Naturally, I pulled up his character sheet because I'm a masochist who enjoys torturing himself with other people's stats. Mons. First stage awakening in progress. Loyalty, 89. Commander of the Netherflame Army. Trainee Knight level 99 out of 100. Literally 1 point away from breaking through. Battle Axe Mastery at 97. Hand-to-hand combat at 90. Hunting at 99. And then the kicker, his special trait. Heroic Spirit. Reincarnated Legendary Warrior. 10 times normal cultivation speed. Massive skill growth boost. Inherits previous life's talents. No bottleneck restrictions. 10 times speed. No bottlenecks. I stared at that screen for a solid minute. Mouth slightly open, soul slightly crushed. This man was going to break through to Transcendent right after the holiday. No struggle. No special potions. No dramatic moment of enlightenment. Just pop. Transcendent. And he already had his Phantom Beast scroll ready to go, so he could immediately perform the contract ceremony too. Am I really the chosen one here? Because it's starting to feel like the universe chose Mons, and I'm just the guy holding his coat. But then, I thought about it from a different angle. When I come back from the festival, I'll have a Transcendent Knight working for me. Plus his battle axe and hand-to-hand skills were about to hit master rank. Among Knight-level Transcendents, Mons would be an absolute top-tier monster. He'd be my top-tier monster. My jealous frown slowly stretched into the biggest, dumbest grin imaginable. After closing Mons's page, I opened my quest panel. The Phantom Beast contract mission was long completed, and the new reward had me vibrating with excitement. Quest complete. Reward. Heroic Spirit. Frost Knight Elena. Details. Go to the abandoned mill east of Sea Harrier City on the evening of December 29th, year 3599 of the creation calendar. Another heroic spirit. Do you understand how rare these are? Heroic spirits aren't just any random dead people. To qualify, you had to be so legendary that an entire region remembered your name for generations. Even most Bright Moon level knights couldn't achieve that kind of fame. You basically needed to reach Blazing Sun rank at minimum, which meant every heroic spirit I collected had the potential to become a Blazing Sun powerhouse. The name, Frost Knight, tickled something in my memory. It felt familiar, like a word on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't quite place it. Made a mental note to dig through some history books when I got home. Then I scrolled down to the next quest, and my good mood took a nosedive straight into the ocean. New quest. Eyes in the Darkness. Objective. Due to your reckless expansion, Coral territory has attracted the attention of a vicious predator. Identify the spy within your territory. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Someone was watching me. My territory had gotten too shiny, and now some hungry wolf wanted a bite. My jaw tightened for a moment. Then I forced myself to relax. Growth without risk was a fairy tale, and I was living in a world where barbers amputated legs for fun. Of course someone was going to notice what I'd built. That's just the cost of being impressive. My brain immediately started scheming. The Creation Festival was actually perfect timing. I'd invite Father and Big Brother to visit Coral territory afterward. Father was a Grand Knight Transcendent now, and having him sit in my territory would make anyone think twice about trying something stupid. In the entire Waterlawn Earldom, there were only 2 Grand Knights before Father's promotion. What were the odds that whoever was targeting me could produce a Grand Knight of their own? Slim to none. I called over one of my Netherflame soldiers, whispered some quick instructions in his ear, and sent him off to find the ship captain. Minutes later, the soldier was rowing a small boat back toward Coral territory, carrying my message to Mons and Crowrin. Extra precautions. Tighten security. Eyes open. I watched that little boat shrink into the distance, my gaze hardening. You want to stare at me? Fine. Let's see if your teeth are sharp enough to back it up. Then I turned and walked back into the cabin, already mentally drafting my holiday to-do list. Reunite with family, collect my shiny new heroic spirit, raid the family library, and somehow scrounge up 200 gold coins without looking desperate. Just another day in the life. Winter wind came howling down from the border between the Frost Crystal Kingdom and the Land Whale Duchy, and it brought something Sea Harrier territory hadn't seen in 20 years, snow. Actual snow. On Creation Festival Eve, just like last time. Poetic timing, universe. Real cute. The townspeople went nuts. Kids rolling around in it. Adults staring at the sky like they'd never seen frozen water before. Meanwhile, the slaves couldn't care less about winter wonderlands. They were too busy trying not to freeze to death. The lucky ones had a communal bed to pile into. The really lucky ones had a spouse to cling to like a human hot water bottle. But for refugees, people with nothing, snow wasn't magical. Snow was a death sentence. In the ruins of an abandoned mill on the east side of Sea Harrier City, a girl named Elena was curled up in a corner, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Her clothes were rags, and I'm being generous calling them clothes. Skin and bones, no shoes. She'd once owned a pair, busted up, one toe poking out, but she'd treasured them like they were made of gold. Wore them only at night for warmth, walked barefoot during the day to preserve them. Then some other desperate soul ripped them right off her. Life on the streets didn't care about your feelings. She sat there hugging her knees, shivering, when a snowflake landed on her face. She held out her tiny hand, scarred, calloused, dark with dirt, and watched a single crystal melt on her palm. From inside her torn shirt, she pulled out a fist-sized chunk of black bread. Hard as a rock. She'd been saving it for Creation Festival, 2 days away, but tonight she knew. Eat it now or never eat again. She nibbled it like a frightened mouse, tiny careful bites, trying to make it last. It was gone in minutes. She licked every crumb off her fingers, then stared at the little pebbles she'd spit out of the bread, because yes, the bread had actual rocks baked into it, and wondered if maybe they still tasted like food. She popped one in her mouth. Nope, just cold stone. She spat it out, defeated. Time crawled. Her eyelids got heavier and heavier. Every survival instinct screamed at her, do not fall asleep. She knew what sleeping in the cold meant. She wanted to find her parents. She wanted to throw herself into her mother's arms and just cry. Then suddenly, heat. Blazing, impossible heat spreading through her body. Her vision blurred, went black, and then she saw them. Mother and father, sitting at a dinner table, waving her over. Vegetable soup. White bread. Home. She reached out her scarred little hands, wanting to tell them everything. How hard she'd fought to survive. How much she'd suffered. How she never stopped looking. The scene shattered. Now she was in a dark forest. Her mother's face was smeared with filth, ice blue eyes bloodshot, and streaming tears, hair wild like a madwoman's. Mother was shoving her up a tree, voice cracking between sobs. Elena, listen to me. Hide. Don't make a sound. I'm going to find your father. If I don't come back, go south. Don't come looking for us. Then Mother turned and stumbled north into the darkness. From that direction came screaming, father's voice, other voices, howls of pain, and then silence. Total, absolute silence. Elena didn't listen. She climbed down, fell from 2 meters up, hit the ground hard, bit back every cry, limped toward where Mother had gone, found nothing but blood, trampled bushes, and a trail leading toward distant firelight. She followed the light to a riverbank and hid in the bushes. There they were, Mother and father, hands bound, being herded onto a large ship with other captives. Father was wounded, barely standing. Mother held him up, kept glancing back toward the forest, looking for her. Elena saw the armed men surrounding the ship, the same men who'd chased her family, the same ones who'd killed Uncle York from next door, the kind neighbor who always gave her little cookies. Her legs wouldn't move. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure they'd hear it. She watched her parents disappear into the ship's hold. All she could do was burn every detail into her memory. But the only thing that stuck was the symbol painted on the hull, a vicious red lion biting down on a severed arm. The ground shook. Everything went black again. She fought to open her eyes and caught a blurry glimpse of a dark-haired young man holding her tight. Then she passed out one more time, but this time, for the first time in forever, she felt warm. That dark-haired young man. Yeah, that was me. And let me tell you, getting to that mill was an absolute nightmare. I'd arrived at Sea Harrier Fortress around 9 or 10 at night. Late, because the wind decided to personally inconvenience me the entire voyage. The moment my boots hit the dock, I didn't even stop to say hi to Mother. Sorry, Mom. Love you. Emergency. I grabbed the fastest war horse in the stable and absolutely launched myself toward the eastern ruins. The quest said tonight. The quest said this mill. And something in my gut was screaming that I was already cutting it close. Snow was pelting my face as I rode, and with every flake that hit me, the bad feeling got worse. I broke a riding crop whipping that horse. Literally snapped it in half. Thank the gods, it was a premium Sea Harrier warhorse. Any normal horse would have collapsed halfway there. Even this beast was drenched in sweat despite the freezing temperature. The mill came into view. I didn't wait for the horse to fully stop. Just threw myself off mid-stride, stumbled, caught my balance, and sprinted into the ruins. And there she was, a tiny snow-covered figure in the corner, shaking uncontrollably, head drooping. She looked like a snowman someone had built and then abandoned. Except snowmen don't tremble. Snowmen aren't dying. I ripped off my bearskin cloak and wrapped her up like a burrito. Pressed my hand to her forehead, burning hot despite the cold. Hypothermia and a raging fever. The worst possible combo. No time to think. I scooped her onto my back, tied the cloak corners into a knot across my chest so she wouldn't slip, climbed back on the horse, and, look, I'm not proud of this, pulled the dagger from my leg sheath and jabbed it straight into the horse's rear end. The horse screamed. I felt bad, but it moved. We tore through the snow towards Sea Harrier Fortress like a comet with regrets, a half-dead girl on my back, and a very angry horse beneath me. Happy Creation Festival to me. Elena opened her eyes to find herself in an actual bed with an actual ceiling above her. Poor kid probably thought she'd died and gone to heaven. She tried to sit up, but had all the strength of a wet noodle. So she just lay there, staring at the mysterious figure sitting at the desk across the room with his back turned. That mysterious figure? Yours truly. Looking very heroic and intellectual, I'm sure. Let me rewind a bit. By the time I galloped back to Sea Harrier Fortress with a half-frozen child strapped to my back and a very upset horse bleeding from the butt, it was nearly midnight. I handed Elena off to the maids with rapid-fire instructions. Strip the wet clothes, wipe her down, wrap her in warm blankets, feed her sugar water. Then I sprinted to the storehouse, grabbed a bottle of precious healing potion, the expensive stuff, and carefully poured it down her throat while the maids kept her body warm with hot towels. Slowly, painfully slowly, she started improving. Her breathing steadied. Color crept back into her skin. My heart, which had been lodged somewhere in my throat for the past 2 hours, finally dropped back into my chest where it belonged. Then Mother showed up. Because of course she did. I hadn't even said hello to her. Just blew past the front door, grabbed a horse, vanished into a snowstorm, and came back at midnight carrying a strange dying child. Naturally, she had questions. I panicked and made up the worst cover story in the history of cover stories. She's the sister of an adventurer friend I met at Coral Territory. Got word yesterday he was in trouble. Rushed over. His whole family's dead. Brought her back, full of holes. Swiss cheese had better structural integrity. But bless her heart, Mother saw I clearly didn't want to elaborate and let it go. Lady Lillian was a real one. By the time everything was handled, it was 2 or 3 in the morning. I was worried Elena might take a turn for the worse, and the maids had zero emergency medical training. Their idea of first aid was probably, fetch more towels, so I decided to stay up and keep watch. Parked myself at the desk in the room and started reading through old books from the family library. Because I had a name bouncing around in my head and I needed to confirm something. Frost Night. Frost Night. Where had I heard that before? Morning sunlight hit my face. I'd been reading all night. My eyes felt like sandpaper wrapped in regret. I looked out the window at some greenery to give them a break, then looked back down at the book open on my desk. The biography of the Frost Knight. I smiled. I knew I recognized that name. And oh boy, what a story. Frost Knight Elena. Born in the year 3176 in the frozen Winter Kingdom, the predecessor of today's Frost Crystal Kingdom. Over 400 years ago. Daughter of Count Frostheim. Now here's the thing about old Count Frostheim. The man couldn't produce an heir to save his life. Then, in his 70s, he suddenly had a daughter. Surprise. Little Elena turned out to be a once-in-a-generation prodigy. Smart, kind, beloved by Daddy Dearest, groomed as his successor from day one. And when she started training at 13, she basically activated cheat codes on life itself. Broke through to Transcendent at 15. I was fuming. Grand Knight at 18. My eye was twitching. Star rank at 25. I wanted to flip the desk. For reference, most people spend decades trying to achieve what this girl speed ran in 12 years. She also loved adventuring, had a heart of gold, rescued commoners and slaves left and right, and became a minor celebrity across the entire kingdom. Old Count Frostheim, bless him, was already ancient when Elena was born. Even transcendent knights have limits. Star rank caps you at about 100 years. He passed away when Elena was 26, and she inherited the title, becoming Countess Frostheim. As Countess, she poured everything into making her territory prosper. Things were looking great. But the frozen Winter Kingdom? Not so much. 500 years of existence had rotted it from the inside out. Corruption everywhere. Ambitious snakes lurking in every shadow, gnawing at the foundations. In the year 3206, the old king died, and his youngest daughter took the throne. A daughter. The vultures smelled blood, led by the Duke of Frost Crystal. Yeah, that guy. A coalition of backstabbing border lords launched a civil war that swallowed half the kingdom almost overnight. These weren't soft interior nobles either. These were hardened frontier warriors who'd been fighting their whole lives. By the time the Loyalists organized a counterattack, 2/3 of the kingdom had fallen. Elena's beautiful, prosperous territory, sitting right in the geographic center, became the front line. The pampered inner nobles were getting demolished by the battle-hardened rebels. But you know what they say, a centipede dies but never falls. 500 years of royal accumulation meant the kingdom had one last card to play, a legendary old marshal, a blazing sun rank transcendent with enormous prestige among the military. He unleashed the kingdom's hidden reserves and turned a total rout into a grinding stalemate. Meanwhile, the Landwale Duchy, newly founded, still unstable, and weaker than the frozen Winter Kingdom, was convinced to sign a non-aggression treaty after the kingdom threw piles of resources at them. With the border secured, the kingdom pulled its remaining elite forces inward and began pushing back. Within a year, the rebels were squeezed back to the frontier. During this brutal period, Elena forged herself in the fires of war and broke through to Bright Moon rank at 31. She became the rising star of the kingdom, the poster child of the loyalist cause, and best friends with the young queen herself. There were even rumors, the spicy kind, that the two were more than just friends. Whether true or not, they were clearly inseparable. Victory seemed inevitable. The rebels were cornered, almost finished. Then came the year 3213, and everything went to hell. On the eve of the rebellion's defeat, the Duke of Frost Crystal pulled 2 blazing sun-rank transcendents out of absolutely nowhere and launched a surprise attack on the battlefield. They killed the kingdom's Grand Marshal, also a blazing sun, on the spot, slaughtered the entire command structure, and obliterated the Loyalist main army in one catastrophic blow. The famous Frost Knight Elena vanished, listed as missing in action. 2 years later, January 23, 3215, the Duke killed the Queen on the walls of the capital. The entire royal family was massacred to the last child. March 1st, the Duke crowned himself king. But at the coronation ceremony, as the new king basked in his stolen glory, a figure emerged from the crowd. Elena, the Frost Knight herself. She'd somehow, impossibly, broken through to Blazing Sun rank while in hiding. She attacked, unleashing power nobody knew she had, and critically wounded the newly crowned king. But 2 against 1 was 2 against 1. The Duke's Blazing Sun bodyguards cut her down. The first king of Frost Crystal died of his wounds the following month. Elena's legend spread through the common folk like wildfire. Songs, stories, whispered tales passed down for 4 centuries. Even now, in parts of the Frost Crystal Kingdom, people still tell her story. That was why the name felt familiar. Mother had told me Elena's story when I was little. I closed the book and leaned back in my chair, letting it all sink in. This scrawny, half-starved, shoeless little girl freezing to death in a ruined mill was the reincarnation of a legendary Blazing Sun warrior who'd single-handedly assassinated a king at his own coronation. I glanced over at Elena, still sleeping peacefully under a mountain of blankets, looking about as threatening as a baby kitten. A Blazing Sun prodigy, broke through to Transcendent at 15, Bright Moon at 31, Blazing Sun by her mid-30s. Beloved hero of an entire kingdom. And she was going to work for me. I quietly closed the biography, steepled my fingers, and grinned like an absolute madman. Best horse stabbing ever. I closed the Frost Knight biography and rubbed my poor, abused nose bridge. My eyes felt like they'd been marinating in lemon juice all night. Slowly, I turned around toward the bed. A tiny head was peeking at me over the blankets like a prairie dog checking for predators. The second I made eye contact, Elena's gaze shot sideways, ceiling, wall, window, anywhere but at me. Then 2 seconds later, she couldn't resist and snuck another peek. Ceiling again. Peek. Wall. Peek. This kid was adorable. Now that the maids had cleaned her up, I could actually see her face properly. Underneath all that dirt and suffering was a genuinely pretty girl, delicate features, fine bone structure. Months of starvation had hollowed her cheeks out something awful, but you could tell that with proper food and rest, she'd grow into a real beauty. You know, the kind of beauty who once assassinated a king at his own coronation. Minor detail. I grabbed the sugar water I'd prepared earlier and walked over to the bed. How are you feeling? Drink some of this. Anything hurting? Elena's cheeks turned pink. Apparently being spoken to gently by a handsome young man was not something she'd experienced recently. Her voice came out scratchy and rough. Thank you for saving me. My name is Elena. I just feel weak and a little dizzy. Nothing else hurts. I pressed my hand to her forehead. Temperature was back to normal. Good. I helped her sit up and held the cup to her lips. The weakness and dizziness are totally normal. Your body's been through a war. You need rest. She took a sip, ears bright red, eyes darting around like a cornered rabbit. I could practically read her thoughts. Yesterday she was dying in a snowstorm. Today she was in a warm bed drinking sugar water while some random pretty boy played nurse. Reality was buffering. I noticed how tense she was, so I started chatting casually to calm her down. Just easy questions, small talk, let her relax. Gradually she opened up, her guard came down, and we talked more and more. But conversations like these have gravity. They always pull toward the heavy stuff. Before long, her eyes were rimming red, voice catching, as she told me about her parents being captured, the ship, the men with weapons, Uncle York who gave her cookies getting killed right in front of everyone. And then she described the symbol on the ship, a red lion biting a severed arm. My brain kicked into detective mode. Red lion emblems were common across the continent. Lions were powerful land beasts, and powerful beasts attracted nature's favor, making lion-type phantom beasts relatively plentiful. I could name over a dozen noble houses with lion crests off the top of my head. But a red lion biting something specific? That narrowed things dramatically. The Blazeflower family. Their crest was a red lion holding a flower in its jaws. And every branch family customized what the lion was biting. Until a branch member earned their own baron title and personal phantom beast, they all shared the surname, Blaze Lion. A severed arm in the lion's mouth? That was a branch family signature. Target identified. I filed that information away and kept comforting Elena until I noticed her eyelids getting heavy. I gently helped her lie back down. I've got some things to handle. You're still very weak, so rest up. Sugar water's right by your bed. I'm having a servant bring you some oatmeal porridge soon. If you need anything, pull the bell cord by the headboard and someone will come. And about your family, don't worry. I'll look into it. I tucked the blanket around her and turned to leave. Just as I reached the door, wait. You never told me your name. And why are you helping me? I stopped, turned back, and smiled. I'm Netherflame Green, second son of the Sea Harrier family, Lord of Coral Territory. As for why I'm helping you, you'll find out eventually. Get some rest. I walked out, leaving Elena staring at the doorway with her mouth slightly open. Mysterious exit. Nailed it. The sunset was painting the sky blood red. Last night's snow had already melted, leaving puddles everywhere that sparkled like scattered mirrors. Somewhere out on the road, hooves were splashing through them. About 3 or 4 miles from Sea Harrier Fortress, a well-equipped cavalry column was approaching. And riding half a horse length behind father, the newly minted Viscount Sea Harrier, was my big brother, Gervais. Poor Gervais. His brain had been experiencing a non-stop earthquake since he'd reunited with father. See, this had been a huge year for Gervais. He'd been grinding away at the Royal Capital Knight Academy, which, by the way, didn't just require you to break through to Transcendent. You also had to pass exams in economics, trade, administration, and territory management. It was basically night school meets business school. Because of all that pressure, the family had kept their monthly letters light. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Focus on your studies. Then he meets father in person and gets hit with approximately 9,000 bombshells in rapid succession. Bombshell 1. Your beloved little brother was beaten within. An inch of his life by the eldest son of the Blazeflower family. Gervais apparently wanted to rip Blazeflower Inge apart with his bare hands and feed the pieces to dogs. Understandable. Big brother energy at maximum. Bombshell 2, before Gervais could finish being furious. Oh, but he survived, got a knighthood title, and received his own territory. Gervais shot father a look that screamed, "Why do you tell stories like this?" The man had the narrative pacing of a soap opera. But mixed in with the relief was a pang of something bittersweet. Gervais had always planned to be the one to help me. Inherit the family title first, then secure a territory for his little brother. Instead, I'd gone and gotten my own land through sheer stubbornness and dumb luck before he could do anything. He was proud of me and sad he couldn't take credit all at once. Classic older sibling feelings. Bombshell 3. Also, your father is now a Grand Knight Transcendent, and we're Viscounts. Gervais nearly fell off his horse. That was supposed to be his job too. The whole elevate the family arc. He'd been mentally rehearsing it for years. Father just casually stole his entire character motivation. But silver lining. A stronger family meant more leverage against the Blazeflower clan. Gervais couldn't touch the whole family. They were way too powerful, but Blazeflower Inge personally? Oh, Gervais could definitely make that guy's life unpleasant. A smile crept across his face as schemes started forming. Then father dropped the final nuke. By the way, Green broke through to Transcendent. He's 18. I'm told Gervais physically wobbled on his horse. The man had entered the Royal Knight Academy at 17, the most prestigious institution on the continent, with the best teachers, the best resources, surrounded by nothing but gifted elites. He'd just broken through this year. The average breakthrough age for nobles across all of Westeros was 25. At the academy, the average was 20. Gervais himself had a rare strength talent, 2 to 3 times stronger than peers his age since childhood. That's what got him admitted. And here I was, 18, transcendent, with none of those academy resources, just vibing on a tropical island, castrating pigs and teaching barbers not to amputate legs. Does Green have some kind of hidden cultivation talent? Gervais muttered, staring into the distance with the hollow eyes of a man whose entire life plan had been speedrun by his baby brother. Earlier that afternoon, I'd washed up, had lunch with mother, checked on Elena one more time, and then around 3 or 4 o'clock, headed to the fortress gate to wait. An hour of standing around. Then, tiny black dots on the horizon, growing larger. I started waving both arms like a maniac. Gervais. Now, if I inherited mother's genes, the handsome face, the lean build, the devastating good looks, my words, but accurate, then Gervais was pure father. Thick eyebrows, strong jaw, built like a small fortress. The kind of guy who looked like he could bench press a horse and then ride it afterward. The cavalry spotted us at the gate and picked up speed. The moment father and Gervais dismounted, I rushed forward, threw my arms around my big brother in the most aggressive bear hug I could manage, then pulled back and bumped his fist. Welcome home, mighty Sir Gervais the Knight. He grinned ear to ear, that big stupid smile I'd missed for months. Long time no see, most honorable lord of Coral Territory. Green? We looked at each other. Both burst out laughing. 3 years of Gervais being away at school. We saw each other every creation festival, sure, but when you've lived under the same roof for over a decade, festival visits never quite fill the gap. Brothers are brothers, no matter how many titles either of us stacked up. Me and Gervais traded a few more jabs at each other while father and mother watched with. Those warm parental smiles that basically said, our sons don't hate each other, we did something right. All right, save it for inside, father said, and led the way into the castle. Gervais and I exchanged a look, matching grins, and followed our parents home. The banquet hall hit us with a wall of aroma the moment we walked in. The table was absolutely loaded, dishes everywhere, colors popping, steam rising, smells that could make a grown man weep. All my recipes, of course. Gervais took one look and I could literally see 2 words forming behind his eyes. Want. Eat. His already big eyes went full dinner plate. The man looked like a cartoon character who'd just spotted a roast turkey. Tomorrow's creation festival, isn't it? Why is today's spread this insane? I've been eating royal capital food for months, and I'm so sick of it. Mother gave him the gentlest smile I'd ever seen on her face. You've been traveling all day, sweetheart. Of course your first meal home should be special. Eat up. We'll make tomorrow's food tomorrow. Father took his seat, gave a little speech, something dignified about family and gratitude, and we all raised our wine glasses. Down the hatch, the red wine hit, and suddenly everyone was in the best mood, attacking food like it owed us money, chatting between bites. After dinner, Mother kept the conversation going for a while, but she had eagle eyes for fatigue. The second she noticed Father and Gervais starting to droop, she gracefully wrapped things up and shooed everyone off to bed. I made a quick detour to check on Elena before turning in. Found her sound asleep, breathing steady. Pressed my palm to her forehead. No fever. Good. I quietly closed the door and headed to my own room. What I didn't know was that the moment I left, Elena opened her eyes, looked at the closed door, smiled to herself, and went back to sleep. Little Sneak was faking it. January 1st, year 3599 of the Creation Calendar. Creation Festival. Beautiful sunny afternoon. Warm light flooding through the windows of Sea Harrier Fortress's meeting hall. Sounds lovely and festive, right? Wrong. The mood was funeral-grade serious. Father sat in the main chair, spine straight as a sword, face carved from stone. Mother sat beside him, equally stern, which was genuinely terrifying because Mother was almost never stern. Gervais sat on the left. I sat on the right. Nobody was smiling. Nobody was eating leftover holiday food. Something was very, very wrong. Father surveyed the room, cleared his throat with 2 soft coughs, and spoke. Normally, important matters wait until after the festival. But what Earl Waterlawn discussed with me is too significant to delay. You need to hear this now, so we can start preparing immediately after the holiday. Gervais and I both straightened up like someone had shoved steel rods down our spines. I was only told because I've broken through to Grand Knight, and both of you have reached Transcendent. The Earl decided our family is now strong enough to be trusted with advance notice. Father paused. By next May at the earliest, or early the year after at the latest, Waterlawn territory. We'll go to war with Blazeflower territory. What? That's so sudden. Good heavens, all 3 of us, me, Gervais, and Mother, blurted out at the same time, faces matching shades of disbelief. Now, it wasn't the concept of war that shocked us. This was Westeros. Wars happened constantly. People fought over a single sheep, a patch of grass, ancient grudges, you name it. Among lower nobility, knights and barons, small skirmishes with a few hundred or thousand troops were practically a weekend hobby. And honestly, noble warfare had gentlemen's rules. Losers paid up with territory and resources, but nobody usually killed other nobles. Even professional soldiers had low casualty rates. The only people who truly suffered were the slaves thrown into meat grinders as cannon fodder. Nobody cared about them. Classic Westeros. But this wasn't a Baron-level scuffle. This was EARL versus EARL. A normal Viscount territory had over 100,000 residents and 1,000 professional soldiers. Scale that up to Earls, and you were talking about tens of thousands of combatants on each side. The cost was astronomical. Nobody launched wars at this level without deadly serious reasons. For context, the last time Waterlawn and Blazeflower went at it was 20 years ago. Father, young and hungry back then, personally seized one of Blazeflower's barren territories during that war, which was actually how the Sea Harrier family's lands grew to Viscount-level size in the first place. So these 2 families had centuries of neighborly hatred. Think of the worst HOA dispute imaginable, multiply it by 300 years, and add swords. Father, calm as a frozen lake, continued, "Don't ask me why. I don't know the reason. The Earl told me when I went for my promotion ceremony. But since it's decided, we can't change it. Only prepare. Normally, we'd only get 1 month's notice before mobilization. But our family has been Waterlawn vassals for over 300 years. With my breakthrough and both of you reaching Transcendent, the Earl trusts us as one of his pillars. That's why he's giving us over a year of advance warning." We all nodded, brains already spinning. A year to prepare was infinitely better than 1 month. With 1 month, all you could do was grab what you had and march. With a year, strategy, equipment, training, recruitment, everything. Father started assigning tasks. Gervais, after the festival, perform your Phantom Beast contract immediately. I'll feel better knowing you have a beast fighting alongside you on the battlefield. I've got a year or 2 for my own Phantom Beast to recover to 70 or 80% strength. As for Green, he turned to look at me, and I caught something in his eyes, guilt. It took me half a second to realize why. He didn't know I'd already contracted a phantom beast. He was feeling bad because he thought I'd be going into war without one. I jumped in before the guilt trip could go any further. Father, don't worry about me. I've already contracted a phantom beast. Oh, every single pair of eyes in the room locked onto me. Father's eyebrows shot up. Gervais's jaw dropped. Mother's expression went from surprised to furious in approximately 0.3 seconds. When did you contract it? What type? This is enormous news, and you didn't even tell us. I scratched my nose sheepishly. Like, 2 months ago, I wanted it to be a creation festival surprise. My phantom beast is and that's where I left them hanging. Because if you've got a dramatic reveal, you might as well milk it. My phantom beast is a nether flame giant shark. Ocean type, boom. Mic drop. Room goes silent. Mother opened her mouth to launch into a full interrogation. When exactly? Why didn't you tell us? Do you know how worried I? But father smoothly cut her off like the seasoned diplomat he was. The boy's grown up. He's allowed to have secrets. Let it go. Then, without missing a beat, he pivoted straight into war planning mode. Gervais, after the festival, contact our vassal families and branch houses. Reorganize and expand the military. But don't mention war. Tell them pirates have been acting up lately, and we need to beef up defenses. Gervais nodded. I could tell he was still mentally processing the fact that his baby brother had secretly contracted a phantom beast, but the man was a professional. He compartmentalized his shock and moved on. Respect. Father turned to Mother. Dear, I need you to inventory our supplies and purchase grain and war materials. Next month, visit your family at the Water Serpent territory. I don't know if your father's been informed about the war. Better tell him just in case. Mother nodded. Her family's territory was on the complete opposite side of Waterlawn from us, a full week's ride one way. But the Water Serpent Viscounts were also Waterlawn vassals, so keeping them in the loop made sense. Then Father looked at me, and his expression softened with concern. You've barely had Coral territory for half a year. In this war, your priority is survival. Don't try to be a hero. If you need reinforcements, I'll station some soldiers there to strengthen your position. He said, station, to save my pride, but I knew what he really meant. I'm worried you'll get squished, so I'm lending you an army whether you like it or not. That won't be necessary, Father. Coral territory currently has 10 heavy infantry, 90 professional soldiers, and over 2,000 militia. By the time war starts, I can field 3,000 men. Their combat ability is only slightly below regular army standards. What? There it was again. The family-wide shock response. I was getting really good at triggering those. Then I noticed Mother's eyes narrowing dangerously in my direction. You've been keeping more secrets. Look, red alert. I immediately launched into a full explanation of Coral Territory's development and the military farming colony system before she could start grilling me. Told them everything. The 9 villages, the training rotations, the crop production, all of it. Well, almost everything. I conveniently forgot to mention the salt production operation and the fact that Mons was about to break through to transcend it. Those surprises were better saved for when they actually visited Coral Territory. If I told Mother about the salt thing now, she'd spend the entire creation festival making me teach her how to extract sea salt, and I was not giving up my holiday for chemistry lessons. I did, however, casually float the idea of borrowing some money from the family. You know, just a little. 700 gold coins or so. No big deal. Father and Gervais both lit up like lanterns when I explained the farming colony system. They immediately saw the genius of it. Train your farmers during off-season. Minimal cost, massive payoff. The only real downside was time. 2 to 3 years before the militia could match professional soldiers in skill. But even with just 1 or 2 years of training, the improvement would be enormous. And food supply? Not an issue. Sea Harrier territory had rich farmland, and with my improved farming techniques, they'd have surplus to spare. Father looked at me with an expression I'd never quite seen before. Genuine, deep, glowing pride. I didn't realize the Sea Harrier family had produced a military genius. And forget borrowing. 300 years of family wealth isn't going to buckle under a few hundred gold coins. Go find your mother later and take 1,000 gold coins. Keep some as reserve funds. 1,000. I'd asked for 700 and got 1,000. Family discount, negative 30%. I loved being a son. Then Father's expression shifted. His eyes went cold and sharp, predator's eyes. Gervais matched it instantly. Two wolves sensing a hunt. As for whoever's watching your territory, father said slowly, after the festival, your brother and I will come back to Coral territory with you. But we won't bring troops. I don't want to scare the fish away before they bite. Translation: they wanted whoever was spying on me to actually try something so they could crush them personally. Father and Gervais weren't just offering protection. They were setting a trap, using my territory as bait and themselves as the jaws. I grinned. Thank you, father. Mother. Big brother. Father waved his hand dismissively. We're family. You may have started your own house, but never forget, the Sea Harrier family is still your shield. Mother and Gervais both smiled and nodded, looking at me with warmth that made my chest tight in the best way. Of course I remember, I said, smiling back. I'll always be a Sea Harrier. For a moment, the room felt very warm. Then Mother shattered it by clapping her hands together and standing up. All right, enough serious talk. Today is Creation Festival. Let's go make sure the decorations and dinner preparations are up to standard. And just like that, War Council adjourned, holiday mode activated. Everyone scattered. Father and Mother went to receive the parade of local nobles and wealthy merchants who always showed up to pay respects, the social tax of being a Viscount family. Gervais found the butler Corley and started supervising servants as they hung ribbons, arranged flowers, and transformed the castle into a festive wonderland. Me? I walked straight into the kitchen, informed the head cook that I'd be personally preparing 2 dishes, and that she'd be my assistant. Then I ordered a special dinner tray prepared for Elena. The girl was still recovering in her room, and if there was ever a night she deserved a proper meal, it was tonight. As evening fell, Sea Harrier Fortress blazed with light. The banquet hall was spectacular, brass chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, rows of candles and brass holders lining the walls, everything glowing warm gold. A massive dining table stretched down the center, flowers running along the middle, surrounded by an absurd spread of food. Over a dozen servants stood at attention around the edges, ready to serve whatever dish you pointed at. Was it excessive for 4 people? Absolutely. Wastefully luxurious? Without question. But this happened once a year, and on every other day, Father and Mother ate 4 or 5 dishes like normal people. Tonight, we were allowed to be ridiculous. The 4 of us sat around the table, laughing, joking, snacking on appetizers, all formal etiquette thrown out the window. Just a family being a family. We were waiting for 7 o'clock. Tradition said the Creator God spent 7 days building the world, so every creation festival, when the 7th bell toll rang, everyone stopped to pray in silent gratitude before eating. The great bronze bell of Sea Harrier Fortress began to ring. Dong, 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 dong. The entire fortress went silent. Every servant, every guard, every member of my family, heads bowed, eyes closed, thoughts turned inward, prayers offered, hopes whispered for the new year. Then the silence broke, noise rushed back in, and the whole castle erupted with life again. My family raised our glasses together. Happy New Year. I clinked my cup against Gervais's, against Mother's, against Father's, and took a long, satisfying drink. 1,000 gold coins in my pocket. A blazing sun reincarnation sleeping upstairs, a war on the horizon, a spy to catch, and a family that had my back no matter what. Year 3599 was going to be absolutely insane. I couldn't wait. The open ocean stretched out like a giant blue gem, and our merchant ship was cutting through it like a sword through butter. I stood on deck, eyes locked on Coral Territory's silhouette growing larger on the horizon, a smile creeping across my face. Home sweet territorial acquisition. Standing beside me was Elena, looking like a completely different person from the half-frozen skeleton I'd peeled off a ruined mill floor 2 weeks ago. Her ice blue short hair caught the sea breeze, and she was wearing a fitted maid's outfit that, well, let's just say proper nutrition was already doing its job. Hands folded neatly at her waist, head slightly bowed, the picture of a proper attendant. But her eyes kept drifting toward Coral Territory with a mixture of hope and nervousness, fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve every few seconds. She'd recovered fully during the week after Creation Festival. I'd promised to help find her parents and had already put that plan into motion. When Father sent spies into Blazeflower Territory, I piggybacked my own request onto the operation. Find the branch family with the red lion biting an arm. Find the captives. In the meantime, Elena had officially become my personal maid. The Sea Harrier war machine had roared to life the moment the festival ended. Everyone was busy. Gervais contacting vassals, mother counting supplies, father running the territory. I'd paced around for an entire week waiting for father to finish his business, practically vibrating with impatience. The second he was done, I grabbed him and Gervais and basically dragged them onto the ship. Even now, minutes from arrival, my brain was running through a checklist of worries. Did anything happen while I was gone? Did Mons break through to Transcendent? Did they find the spy? Questions buzzing around like annoying flies I couldn't swat. Then I glanced back at the ship's cabin, and a deliciously devious smile spread across my face. See, father and Gervais weren't standing up here with me on deck. They were hidden below. Nobody knew they were on this ship. Nobody knew I'd casually brought home a Transcendent Grand Knight and a freshly minted Transcendent Knight to my little territory. I was genuinely excited to see the face of whoever was lurking in the shadows when they realized what had just walked into their hunting ground. Oh, you thought you were stalking a baby deer? Surprise! It's actually 2 wolves in a deer costume. The expanded Coral Territory docks were packed when we pulled in. Word had spread that their beloved Lord Green was returning today, so Crowrin, Mons, all the village chiefs, and a bunch of residents had showed up to welcome me. It was like a minor celebrity homecoming. I loved it. Never gets old. The gangplank dropped, and I strode down first. The crowd erupted. Welcome back, Honorable Lord Green. Crowrin rushed forward with a bow so smooth it looked rehearsed, which it probably was. My lord, welcome home. The manor has prepared a splendid dinner. You can freshen up and dine at your leisure. I nodded approvingly. You and Mons have been working hard while I was away. Thank you. Mons, of course, was already standing at my left rear, still wearing that same eternal suit of armor, polished to a mirror finish, immovable as a mountain. When I acknowledged him, he reached up and scratched the back of his head with a dopey grin. 400 years ago, this man assassinated. Wait, no, that was Elena. Mons was the other legendary reincarnation. Point is, history's greatest warriors apparently all had the same bashful reaction to compliments. I led Elena to the carriage with Crowrin, and we headed toward the manor. Everything smooth, everything normal, nothing to see here. What nobody noticed, and this was the beautiful part, was that 2 unremarkable-looking men had quietly slipped off the ship among the servants and climbed into a plain, boring carriage parked in a secluded corner, then sped off toward the territory interior. Just a couple of totally ordinary guys. Definitely not a Transcendent Grand Knight and his eldest son. Nope, nothing suspicious at all. At the manor, I did the whole routine. Maids brought warm towels, I washed up, got Elena settled into her room. Then I shooed away all the servants and stood at the manor gate with only Crowrin and Mons, waiting. A few minutes later, the plainest, most boring carriage in the history of transportation rolled up. Out stepped Father and Gervais, looking around at Coral Territory with appraising eyes. Father, big brother, sorry for the rough ride. Crowrin immediately bowed low. Honorable Viscount, young Master Gervais, welcome to Coral Territory. Father looked at Crowrin's sharp, professional demeanor, then up at Mons's absolutely massive frame towering over everyone like a friendly siege tower, and nodded with clear approval. He'd heard me talk about these 2 for weeks. Now he was seeing the goods in person. Crowrin and Mons. Green has told me a lot about you. You've done well. I jumped in with a grin. See, Father? My eye for talent is impeccable. Now come inside. Dinner's ready. We can talk over food. We headed in, and I caught Gervais giving Mons a friendly clap on the shoulder as he passed. Gervais had a natural gift for that kind of thing. One gesture, and Mons looked like he'd been adopted into the family. The banquet hall smelled incredible. Table was loaded. Father, completely at ease in his youngest son's domain, sat himself right in the main chair without a second thought. Gervais and I took the flanks. Mons planted himself at the door like a human barricade, making sure no servant wandered in and spotted the secret VIP guests. Crowrin glided over with hot water and towels, served Father and Gervais first, then took his position standing behind me. Neither Crowrin nor Mons sat down, and neither needed to be told. With Father present, protocol mattered. These 2 read the room better than most nobles I'd met. I stood, raised my glass. Welcome to Coral Territory, Father and Big Brother. Consider this your home. Anything you need, just ask me or Crowran. Gervais raised his glass with a smirk. Well then, do take good care of us, Lord Green. I responded with the most dramatic eye roll I could aim at him. Father shook his head, trying not to laugh. Gervais was always Mr. Serious and dignified around outsiders. But the instant I was in the room, he turned into the world's most annoying big brother. I loved and hated it in equal measure. After dinner, I led everyone up to the third-floor study. From today onward, no servants were allowed on the third floor. Couldn't risk anyone finding out a Viscount and his heir were hanging out in a minor lord's territory. That kind of information getting to the wrong ears would ruin the entire trap. Crowran served red tea for 3, then naturally assumed his position behind my chair. The man was like a Swiss Army butler, always exactly where he needed to be. I waited until everyone was settled, then got straight to business. Crowran, how's the territory? Any developments? Did we catch the spy? Father and Gervais leaned forward simultaneously, eyes sharpening. They wanted to know, too, who was stupid enough to target their baby boy's island. Crowran stepped up to report, and honestly, the man deserved a raise, or a medal, or both. My lord, Viscount, young Master Gervais, the day after your message arrived, I secretly summoned all village chiefs and launched a full population sweep of Coral territory. I deployed Netherflame army soldiers to covertly patrol the entire coastline, banned all ships from entering or leaving, and sent hunters to comb every uninhabited area. Not a single corner was missed. Father, Gervais, and I all nodded in unison. This was textbook counterintelligence. Step 1. Check every face in the territory. Any stranger sticks out instantly. Step 2. Cut off all communication routes, so even if a spy realized they'd been made, they couldn't send word out. Step 3. Sweep the wilderness in case anyone was hiding in the bushes playing survivalist. Crowran had basically turned Coral territory into an inescapable net. If you were a spy inside it, you were a fish in a very, very small barrel. Crowran allowed himself a tiny satisfied smile before continuing. We found 6 spies, 4 hidden in the forest, and 1 each in Pig Village, Fishing Village, and Potato Village. The leader is a pirate called Quick Fish Lek. Under thorough questioning, Crowran said, thorough questioning, with the calm energy of a man describing afternoon tea, that he confirmed no other pirates remain inside the territory. However, I've maintained covert patrols as a precaution. He paused to let that sink in, then delivered the main course. These pirates belong to a group called the Mad Wolf Pirates. Their captain, Mad Wolf, appeared in these waters roughly 2 months ago. His introduction to the local pirate community was dramatic. He sailed solo to a mid-sized pirate gang called Blood Theater, walked right up to their captain, and killed him in front of everyone. Absorbed the entire crew on the spot. Over the past 2 months, he swallowed 4 or 5 more small and medium pirate groups. Current strength, 3 medium warships, 8 small ships, nearly 1,000 men. Mad Wolf's personal combat level is confirmed transcendent with a contracted phantom beast. He's killed at least 1 transcendent knight in combat. As for why he's targeting Coral territory, Crowran's eyes flicked to me with a knowing look. Yeah, I knew exactly why. The salt. My brain started spinning. The family had just been promoted to Viscount. War was coming and would require massive funding. This wasn't something I could keep to myself anymore. I asked Crowran to step outside and guard the study door. Then, facing Father and Gervais's confused expressions, I took a breath. Father, big brother, there's something I need to tell you. It's related to why we're being watched. Shortly after I arrived at Coral territory, I developed a method to turn seawater into usable salt. Silence. Father and Gervais stared at me like I'd just told them I could turn rocks into gold. Then it hit them. Both of them lit up like someone had plugged them into a lightning bolt. Gervais opened his mouth to ask questions, but Father cut him off with a raised hand. The Viscount stood up and started pacing the study, back and forth, brain clearly running at maximum processing speed. Then came the interrogation. What materials does this require? What's the output capacity? What's the salt quality? The salt you sold our family before, was that manufactured? Father fired these questions like arrows. So fast I actually needed a second to catch up. Yes, the salt I sold to the family was all manufactured. The process requires seawater, a large pot, a funnel, some sand, and cotton cloth. That's it. As for output, One pot can produce 150 gene of premium fine salt per day, and there's no upper limit. Add more pots, get more salt. Father froze mid-pace. Just stopped, like someone hit the pause button on a human being. Gervais collapsed backward into his chair, eyes glazing over, muttering to himself like a man who'd just witnessed a miracle. Creator above. It's like the legendary bag that spits gold coins. Father's face was cycling through emotions at an alarming rate. Pride. His son was a genius. Joy. Unlimited salt meant unlimited money. Terror. Unlimited money meant everyone on the continent would want to murder them for it. Because here was the thing Father immediately understood that I'd been trying not to think too hard about. The profits from unlimited cheap salt production were so enormous that our family alone couldn't protect the secret. Even with Earl Waterlawn backing us, it might not be enough. Every noble house, every merchant guild, every kingdom on the continent would sell their own mothers for this technology. Father's questions came rapid fire now, and I noticed his voice had an edge I'd never heard before. The man was actually rattled. Who knows about this? How much have you sold? Who have you traded with? How did you explain the source? And if I remember correctly, the salt you sold our family was yellow salt, decent quality, nowhere near premium. Why? I answered methodically. Only me, Mons, Crowren, and the salt workers know. And presumably this mad wolf pirate has some suspicions. I've sold several tens of thousands of gene of yellow salt, mainly to 3 slave trading caravans and our family. I told everyone Coral Territory discovered a small salt lake. As for the quality, I can adjust the purity of the salt during production. I deliberately downgraded it to yellow salt because I knew the profits from premium salt would be too conspicuous for me to handle alone. Father thought for a moment, then started issuing orders with the decisive efficiency of a man who'd spent decades commanding a territory. First, halt all salt trading immediately. Tell your buyers the family has exclusively contracted the Salt Lake's entire output. Your slave purchase costs? The family covers everything from now on. Second, ramp up production. Find a remote, uninhabited area deep inside the territory and dig a small artificial lake. Dump your salt stockpile into it. We're creating a fake natural salt lake to back up your cover story. Then Father's eyes went cold. Ice cold. The kind of cold I'd never seen from him before. Everyone who participates in the digging. None of them can be left alive. I flinched. This was my father. The warm, encouraging, family is your shield, Father. The man who'd patiently taught me to ride horses and praised my cooking. And he just casually ordered executions with a look that could freeze lava. But even as the shock rippled through me, my rational brain caught up almost immediately. He was right. If this secret leaked, it wouldn't just be our family that burned. Every person even remotely connected to us would be targeted. We weren't talking about losing territory or paying fines. We were talking about total annihilation. The kind of profit that salt production represented would make kings go to war. Father noticed my expression and softened slightly, explaining himself, not apologizing, just making sure I understood. Green. This has to be done. If too many people know and word gets out, our entire family faces extinction. Everyone connected to us becomes a target. This isn't cruelty. This is survival. I nodded slowly. Already my mind was working on a solution that sat slightly less heavy on my conscience. Convicted criminals. Buy death row prisoners from the mainland to do the digging. At least that way, they'd be making one final contribution to society before. Well, Father watched me accept the reality without arguing or moralizing, and I caught a flicker of relief in his eyes. He'd been worried I'd gotten infected with idealism. In this world, idealism was a luxury that got entire bloodlines erased. Welcome to feudal economics, where the profit margins are incredible and the ethical dilemmas are absolutely horrifying. Once the salt crisis plan was settled, Father finally exhaled like a man who'd been holding his breath underwater for 10 minutes. All right, keep producing salt at the current scale. You've already told people about the Salt Lake, so stopping now would look suspicious. Write down the full production method, and I'll lock it in the family vault. If we ever get powerful enough to mass produce openly, we'll pull it out then. He started walking toward the door, then stopped and turned back to look at me with an expression that made my stomach drop. Let's go interrogate those pirate spies together. Anyone who knows about the salt needs to be eliminated. Also, he glanced at me with careful, measured eyes. your butler, and your military commander. What's your take on them? Translation: should I kill Crowren and Mons too? My blood ran cold. Father wasn't asking casually. If I hesitated, if I showed even a flicker of doubt, Crowren and Mons might have a very unfortunate accident before sunrise. This was the same man who'd just ordered the execution of an entire digging crew without blinking. He loved me, but he loved the family's survival more. Father, I stake my identity as a son of the Sea Harrier family. Crowren and Mons are absolutely trustworthy. You can believe in them. Father stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he nodded. I almost collapsed with relief. What Father didn't know, what nobody knew, was that my guarantee wasn't just gut feeling. The second I'd heard his thinly veiled threat, I'd sneaked a peek at my character panel system. Both profiles were right there. Crowren. Loyalty, 80. Skills. Expert level management at 95. Expert etiquette at 99. Shocker. Expert commerce at 51. Basic swordsmanship at 88. Wait, the butler could fight? And traits including clever and management genius. No combat class, but the man was basically a walking administrative supercomputer. Mons. Loyalty, 89. And, oh hello, knight rank 1 out of 100. He'd broken through. The madman had actually done it. Transcendent. Already. His battle axe and hand-to-hand combat had both crossed into master rank 2. The first stage awakening was complete, which meant his cheat code cultivation bonuses were gone now, but he'd already squeezed every last drop out of them. Beautiful. Loyalty numbers don't lie. 80 and 89, no betrayal risk. I could vouch for them with confidence. Although, Crowren's loyalty had dropped. It used to be higher. Something was bothering him. I made a mental note to have a chat with him later. We walked out of the study. Crowren was standing by the door, perfectly composed as always. Crowren, take us to where the spies are being held. He bowed and led the way. Something was different, though. As Crowren turned, I caught a flash of something in his eyes that made me do a double take. Was that fanaticism? From Crowren? The man whose emotional range normally spanned from politely neutral to slightly less politely neutral. That was weird. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened his character panel again. Loyalty, 95. I literally almost tripped over my own feet. 95. It had been 85 minutes ago. That's not a loyalty increase. That's a loyalty explosion. 95 was dead loyal territory. I would walk into a volcano for you, territory. What in the world happened in the last few minutes too? Then I noticed it. Walking behind him in the dim corridor candlelight, I could clearly see the back of Crowren's tailcoat was completely soaked with sweat. A proper butler. Soaking through his clothes. That never happened. And then the pieces clicked together. Crowren's hearing. The man had supernatural ears. I'd noticed little hints before, but never thought much of it. He'd heard everything. Every word through that study door. The salt secret. Father's casual suggestion to eliminate everyone who knew. The moment where my father basically asked, should I kill your butler? And he'd heard me stake my family name to protect him. That was why his loyalty had cratered to 80. He'd heard the death sentence being discussed. And that was why it rocketed to 95. He'd heard me refuse to sacrifice him. In the span of about 90 seconds, Crowren had experienced the emotional equivalent of being thrown off a cliff and then caught midair by the person he worked for. I stared at his sweat-drenched back, put the whole timeline together, and allowed myself a small, knowing smile. You sneaky, sharp-eared butler. You heard everything, panicked, considered running, and then decided to be loyal forever because your teenage boss told a Viscount to back off. Honestly, fair reaction. Crowren led us through the courtyard toward the manor stables, which I immediately noticed had been significantly expanded and renovated since I'd left. When we reached the center, Crowren stopped, scanned the area, and walked to a corner where a pile of dry straw sat unremarkably against the wall. He knelt down, swept the straw aside, revealing a heavy wooden trapdoor with an iron ring handle. He grabbed it, pulled, and the board lifted with a grinding sound, exposing a staircase carved into the earth below. When you notified me about potential spies, my lord, I realized the manor had no secure location for interrogation. Conducting one outdoors would be too risky, so I used the stable renovation as cover and had the heavy infantry squad dig this underground chamber during nighttime shifts. I raised my eyebrows, genuinely impressed. Good thinking. Can't risk tipping anyone off. Crowran allowed himself a small smile. The smile of a man whose loyalty score had just hit 95 and who knew exactly why. Then, pulled a fire striker from his coat and descended into the darkness. A secret underground interrogation room, hidden beneath a horse stable, built by soldiers working night shifts, disguised as a renovation project. All set up in under 2 weeks while I was away celebrating a holiday. I was starting to think I didn't pay this man nearly enough. The stairs down into the underground chamber were about as inviting as a throat of a monster, dark, damp, and smelling like someone had buried their laundry in mud and forgotten about it for a century. Every step took us deeper into this claustrophobic tunnel, the walls packed tight with shoveled earth, the ceiling held up by thick wooden beams that I really hoped Crowran had installed properly. Every few steps, Crowran would pause, pull a candle from a little carved-out niche in the wall, and light it with his fire striker. The flickering glow barely pushed back the darkness. Very atmospheric. Very, welcome to my dungeon. 10 out of 10 for ambience. We descended about 4 or 5 meters before reaching the bottom. A room, maybe 15 square meters, lined with 6 iron cages. Inside each cage, a ragged, filthy man huddled in the corner, staring at us with eyes like terrified rabbits who'd just realized they were living in a wolf's den. On one wall hung an assortment of tools that would make a horror movie director weep with joy. Whips, iron spikes, hammers. Some of them had dried black blood crusted on the edges. I looked around at this whole setup and thought, we could literally start filming a torture scene right now without changing a single prop. The lead spy, Quick, Fishleck, tried to open his eyes to get a look at us, but they were so swollen they looked like 2 overripe plums shoved into his skull. He managed to crack them into narrow slits, peering out at us with the energy of a man who had long ago given up on good outcomes and was now just hoping for a quick death. Here's the thing about Lek. The guy actually used to live in Coral territory. Spent over a decade here as a hunter before killing someone by accident and fleeing. So when Mad Wolf ordered him to lead a spy mission to Coral territory, Lek had been practically giddy. He knew every tree, every rock, every path. Easy job, right? Wrong. He'd been smart about it, at least. Instead of sneaking in through the obvious spots like the fishing beach or the harbor, he'd used his old memories to find a cliff on the east side, only 4 or 5 meters high, way shorter than the rest of the coastline's towering cliffs. He and his 5 spies climbed up, navigated through the forest, only getting lost 2 or 3 times, and set up camp in a remote area. Then he sent his guys out disguised as residents of Fishing Village to gather intel from the other villages. His cover stories were genuinely good. Since he was actually from Fishing Village, the fake identities he created were a convincing mix of truth and fiction. Unless someone physically dragged one of his spies to Fishing Village for a face-to-face verification, they'd never get caught. For 3 or 4 days, it worked perfectly. Information flowed in. And then Lek had a crisis of faith, because everything he heard was good. Too good. The slaves here were fed. They had clothes. They could earn their freedom. There was a professional army protecting them. Villagers could join the militia for extra meals and a shot at enlisting full-time. You got paid for extra work. Lek's brain was short-circuiting. Every piece of intel was another sledgehammer to his worldview. At one point, he'd wanted to storm up to the mysterious lord of Coral territory and scream, "What is wrong with you? No lord treats slaves like this. Are you insane?" But before he could investigate the salt production, his actual mission, fate kicked him square in the teeth. The morning after his crisis of conscience, he woke up surrounded by fully armed soldiers. His carefully laid warning systems? Useless. His escape routes? Blocked. His decade of local knowledge? Irrelevant. And standing behind those soldiers? His old hunting teacher. The man who'd literally trained him to track and hide. You cannot outfox the fox who taught you to be a fox. Lek had been prepared to cooperate fully. No loyalty to Mad Wolf whatsoever. The pirate captain hadn't exactly earned his devotion. Why suffer when you could just talk? Except nobody asked him anything. They strapped him to a wooden frame and started whipping him with salt-soaked leather. He screamed, begged, offered to tell them everything. The whip kept coming. Only after every single spy had received a thorough beating did the young man in the tailcoat finally, calmly, begin asking questions. That was Crowran. Gentle, composed, white-gloved Crowran, who apparently ran his interrogation program on a simple algorithm. Beat first, ask later. And for the next several days, he'd visited daily, questioned each spy separately, and if any answer didn't match another spy's story, more whipping. The result? Lek now physically trembled at the mere sight of a tailcoat. I looked at Lek, shaking like a leaf, eyes wide with pure animal terror, then looked at Crowran, who was standing there with his trademark warm, gentle smile. The disconnect was honestly disturbing. This was like watching a kindergarten teacher casually reveal they moonlighted as an MMA fighter. Crowran removed his white gloves, somehow that made it scarier, pulled out a key, unlocked Lek's cage, and said in the softest, kindest voice imaginable, "Come on out. The masters have some questions for you." Lek's brain was screaming but his body was already shuffling out on autopilot, trembling violently, before dropping to his knees in front of us. Pavlovian obedience at its finest. Crowran nodded with satisfaction. He'd spent nearly a week breaking these men specifically so they'd be perfectly compliant when I returned. Customer service, Crowran style. "My lord, this is the spy leader, Quickfish Lek. Former hunter of Coral Territory, fled over a decade ago after an accidental killing. Currently the third mate of the Mad Wolf pirates." I looked at the filthy, skeletal, absolutely reeking middle-aged man kneeling before me, glanced at Father and Gervais. Both gestured for me to lead the questioning. I pulled a handkerchief from my pocket and pressed it over my nose because, good Lord, the smell. "What was your mission? What was the plan? How were you supposed to contact the outside once you succeeded?" Lek nearly vibrated out of his own skin with eagerness to answer. "Anything to avoid another Crown special. Why, your most honorable lordship, our mission was to investigate Coral Territory's salt secret. Last month we raided a merchant ship and found a large quantity of decent yellow salt. Captain Mad Wolf concluded that Coral Territory might have a method for producing salt, so he sent me to confirm it. We had 10 days. Once we confirmed, at midnight I was supposed to wave a torch from the eastern cliff, and they'd land through Fishing Village Beach." Gervais cut in. "When did you arrive?" "Oh, on Creation Festival Day, Your Honor. We figured the territory's defenses would be relaxed during the holiday." Smart. Annoying, but smart. Then Father spoke, and his voice carried the weight of a man who'd fought real wars. "How many Transcendent Knights does your group have? Do they all have Phantom Beasts? What's Mad Wolf's Phantom Beast? Has he broken through to Grand Knight?" Lex swallowed hard. "We have 3 Transcendent Knights. Only Mad Wolf has a Phantom Beast, a Jackal. As for Grand Knight, I don't think so. When Mad Wolf fought other Transcendents, he won, but never dominated them completely. 3 Transcendents." Father, Gervais, and I exchanged looks. That was more than expected. Crowran's face soured. He was clearly annoyed at himself for not extracting this particular detail during his week of enthusiastic whipping. He shot like a look that could curdle milk, and the poor pirate started shaking again like he'd been plugged into an electrical socket. I pressed on. "Where did the other 2 Transcendents come from? What weapons do they use? And where's your base?" Lex spat out information like his life depended on it. Which, to be fair, it did. The other 2 were absorbed when Mad Wolf took over their crews. I was originally first mate, but these 2 showing up bumped me down to third. Bitterness practically dripped off every word. One is Ironbone Arley, former captain of the Ironbone Pirates. Fights with spiked gauntlets, specializes in hand-to-hand combat. The other is Black Rose Lena, former captain of the Black Rose Pirates. Uses a thorn-covered iron whip. Our base is Ironbone Island, about 1,000 nautical miles east of Coral Territory. We've also seized 4 or 5 smaller islands beyond that. Lek was grinding his teeth as he talked, clearly furious at these 2 newcomers who'd stolen his rank. If they hadn't joined, he wouldn't have been demoted, wouldn't have been sent on this stupid spy mission, wouldn't have been caught, and wouldn't have spent a week getting whipped by a man in a tailcoat. He was ratting out his entire organization with the enthusiasm of a man settling a personal grudge. Completely forgot that he'd originally accepted this mission with total confidence. After confirming everything matched what Crowran had already extracted, and with Father and Gervais having no more questions, I told Crowran to lock Lek back up. We climbed back into daylight, and I took the deepest breath of fresh air I'd ever taken in my life. 3 Transcendent Knights, nearly 1,000 pirates, 11 ships, and they knew about the salt. This was going to be fun. Back in the study under cold moonlight, we divvied up opponents like picking teams in gym class. Father claimed Mad Wolf, the big boss, Probably top-tier night level, tiny chance of grand night. Better safe than sorry, let the strongest guy handle it. Then me and Gervais both tried to dump the weaker opponent on each other like a hot potato. We each wanted the tougher fight. Father settled it. I got Iron Bone since I had a Phantom Beast. Gervais got Black Rose. He pouted. I pretended not to notice. I kept Mons out of the assignments on purpose. Secret weapon. Hidden card. I'm a schemer by nature. Always save something for the surprise round. Then I started issuing orders like I'd been commanding armies my whole life, instead of, 18 years. Crowran got 3 tasks. Move the salt workshop somewhere hidden, evacuate the coastal villages to the manor area, and dig 2-meter-deep trap trenches on the beach lined with wooden spike pits covered in straw. Oh, and build some big shields and horse-blocking barricades. Light workload. Mons got the military prep. Gather 100 soldiers and 1,500 militia on the beach. Morning shift. Chop trees into throwing javelins. Fire harden the tips. Collect head-sized rocks. Afternoon. 1,000 militia drill formations, while 500 practice javelin throwing. I needed 6,000 javelins in 2 days. Also, quietly dispose of the spies in the dungeon. Mons looked up at me, and his usual dopey face twisted into something genuinely terrifying. I'll crush every enemy for you, my lord. Noted. Remind me never to make Mons angry. Father and Gervais had no objections to my plan, which felt pretty validating honestly. Later, Crowran apparently tested Mons's loyalty by telling him what Father had implied in the study. The "maybe we should eliminate everyone who knows" conversation. Mons didn't flinch. Told Crowran straight. The Lord gave me everything. My family lives here. This is my home. Don't insult me, good man. Both of them. The next day brought the biggest surprise of all. When we announced the pirate threat, I braced for mass panic. Instead, the entire population went absolutely berserk, in a good way. Women grabbed wooden clubs. Old men picked up sickles. Everyone wanted to fight. They were ready to die defending Coral territory and their Lord Green. I stood there with my mouth hanging open. All I'd done was feed them, clothe them, and treat them like actual human beings. Apparently, that was enough to build an army of fanatics willing to charge pirates with farming tools. Father and Gervais were equally stunned. It made them quietly rethink how they treated their own slaves back home. Turns out a little basic dignity goes a long way. Who knew? Riding that wave of emotion, I made a declaration. Every slave who served faithfully would be freed within 3 years. The entire territory dropped to their knees facing the manor to pray for my health. Slightly uncomfortable, mostly awesome. Then I hit the beach with Mons to lay out the battle plan. Javelin teams split into 2 groups hidden on the cliffs flanking the beach. 10-meter-high advantage. Rain death from above once every pirate was on the sand. 1,000 militia in 4 rows on the beach behind the barricades. Rows 1 and 3 with big shields. Rows 2 and 4 with spears. When the enemy charges into the barricades, collapse the formation and start stabbing. The Netherflame Army professionals would hold 2 10-meter gaps I deliberately left trap-free on each side. Heavy infantry front, halberdiers behind. Critical choke points. Must hold. And the cherry on top, Mons would personally lead 200 elite militia hidden in a concealed cove around the cliff bend. After battle started, they'd row out and hit the pirates from behind. If we were winning, seal the beach exit, trap them all. If we were losing, create chaos and flip the battle. Mons nodded seriously. Even he understood this one piece could decide everything. 3 days until showtime. Night fell. Stars vanished behind rolling clouds. The insects near Fishing Village Beach went dead silent, like even the bugs knew something terrible was about to happen. Out on the dark ocean, a ghost fleet of pirate ships sat without a single light. 3 medium warships, 8 small ones, painted with snarling jackal heads, bone fists, and black roses. Real classy interior decorating for murderers. On the lead ship, Mad Wolf himself stood on deck with one arm wrapped around Black Rose Lena, who was draped against him like a very dangerous house cat. These 2 were busy flirting, tongues, butt-slapping, innuendo that would make a sailor blush, which is ironic because they were sailors, when Ironbone stomped over in full-plate armor to announce the signal had been spotted. Mad Wolf reluctantly put his lady friend down. Notify everyone. Move out. And if anyone makes noise after landing, I'll rip them apart personally. Ironbone nodded silently and left. The man hadn't spoken more than 10 words or glanced at Black Rose once. Professional to the bone. Iron bone, specifically. The crashing waves against the cliffs perfectly masked the sound of pirates climbing onto shore. Mad Wolf felt something was off the second his boots hit sand. Couldn't put his finger on it. Just wrong. A crewman ran up babbling about spotting figures at the treeline. Probably quick fish Lex team. Mad Wolf smacked him to the ground. Idiot. Tell them to come to US. Then his instincts screamed retreat. But leaving without results? His reputation couldn't take that hit. He swung his massive battle axe onto his shoulder and growled, "Forget it. Take me to them." He marched forward, 800 pirates flowing behind him like a dark river, completely unaware that on the cliff above, young Alex was staring down at them with sweating palms and a pounding heart. First real battle. Terrifying. But Alex thought about his family, the promised rewards, 10 silver moons just for showing up, 5 per pirate killed, lifetime support if wounded, 10 acres of land for his family if he died, and his fear hardened into steel. Meanwhile, I was crouched at the treeline with Father and Gervais, watching Mad Wolf's army waddle straight into my trap like 1,000 mice heading for cheese in a cage. My hands were sweating on my greatsword. My face, cool as ice. Total poker face. Father wasn't fooled for a second. He put his big warm hand on my shoulder, gave me an encouraging nod, and said nothing. Didn't need to. My internal monologue was doing the heavy lifting. What am I afraid of? I've got superior firepower, superior numbers, terrain advantage, spike traps, javelin ambushes on both cliffs, a hidden flanking force, a transcendent Grand Knight standing next to me. This is a flying dragon sitting on their face. How do I lose? After enough self-brainwashing, my nerves settled. Mad Wolf's army had crossed halfway up the beach. Deep enough. No turning back. I looked at Father, at Gervais, gave them both one firm nod. Then I stood up, pointed my great sword at the beach, and screamed with everything I had. Coral territory. Charge. 1 second of silence. Then the forest behind me erupted. Hundreds of figures burst from the darkness, spears, shields, roaring like animals. The sound was deafening. Gervais and I got swept up in the raw fury of it all, adrenaline slamming through every vein, sprinting toward the beach like maniacs. Father watched his 2 boys charge headlong into their first real battle, smiled proudly for about half a second, then leaped forward and passed us both in 3 strides. His eyes were already locked on the massive figure at the front of the pirate army, the one casually carrying a giant axe on one shoulder. Father wanted to see exactly who had the audacity to threaten his baby boy's island. Mad Wolf heard my battle cry and froze for exactly 1 second. Then his survival instincts kicked in. It's a trap. Retreat, smart man. He immediately figured quick fish had been captured and had sold him out. He knew that if someone was dumb enough to ambush a transcendent knight, they had backup. His plan? Run now, investigate later, come back when the odds were better. Solid plan. Terrible timing. Because that's when the cliffs came alive. A boulder the size of a human head came screaming down from above and turned a pirate's skull into modern art right next to Mad Wolf. Blood and brains splattered across his face. He looked up. Both cliff edges were lined with hundreds of silhouettes raining javelins and rocks like an angry sky. A stone rocketed straight at his face. He swung his massive axe up just in time. Clang. And the impact knocked him back a full step. This guy was strong, but he was also trapped. Behind him, 400 or 500 meters of beach being carpet-bombed with projectiles. Ahead, my army pouring out of the forest. In the first few moments alone, over 100 pirates were already down. Mad Wolf made the only call he could. Brothers, charge forward. Behind us is death. He sprinted toward my lines like a human cannonball, axe raised, murder in his eyes. 200 meters closed in seconds. He was grinning, ready to carve through militia like paper. Then Father dropped out of the sky. One leap, greatsword raised overhead, slamming down with the full force of a Grand Knight transcendent. Mad Wolf barely got his axe up in time. Boom! Sparks exploded, and Mad Wolf went flying backward 10 meters, crashed into the sand, and coughed up a spray of blood. His internal monologue was probably just one word on repeat. Grand Knight. Grand Knight. Grand Knight. Father landed and shook out his tingling hands. One exchange told him everything. Mad Wolf was peak knight rank, roughly equal to Father's old strength. before the breakthrough. If Father hadn't leveled up, this fight would have been coin flip territory. But he had leveled up, and now it was a beatdown. No mercy, no breathing room. Father closed the distance in 2 bounds and brought another devastating overhead slash. Mad Wolf panic rolled sideways like a log. The sword cratered the sand where his head had been, spraying grit into his face. Iron Bone and Black Rose watched their invincible captain get ragdolled and couldn't believe their eyes. Mad Wolf could handle 3 normal knights simultaneously. He'd sparred with both of them at once for fun, and now he was rolling around in the sand getting bullied. After 7 or 8 blocked strikes, Mad Wolf's forearms were practically vibrating apart. He screamed at his subordinates, "Stop staring and help me. If I die, you're dead too." Iron Bone and Black Rose exchanged a glance. Okay, maybe they could at least take some pressure off him and then find an escape route. They took 2 steps forward. Gervais and I stepped into their path. I locked eyes with Iron Bone, big guy, full armor, spiked gauntlets, built like a refrigerator with anger issues. Without looking away, I called out to my brother, Gervais. We agreed. I get the dude, you get the lady. Then I swung my greatsword at Iron Bone's head with everything I had. He crossed both armored arms overhead to block. Clang. The impact rattled him backwards several steps. His ears were ringing. Good. Welcome to Coral territory. Behind me, Black Rose lashed her thorn whip at my skull, but Gervais was already moving. He stepped forward, caught the whip midair with his armored left hand like snatching a snake, and yanked. Black Rose flew toward him completely off balance. Gervais timed a devastating chain mace swing perfectly, but the woman was slippery. She released the whip at the last instant, twisted midair with some impressive core strength, and the mace whistled past her by inches. She landed, pulled 2 curved daggers from her belt, and started darting around Gervais like a very angry, very flexible mosquito. Everything was going according to plan. Father was demolishing Mad Wolf. I was trading blows with Iron Bone. Gervais was chasing Black Rose. Cliffs were raining death. Then something went wrong with the militia lines behind us. Because of course it did. The battle started exactly as planned, for about 5 minutes. Cliff teams unleashed hell. Boulders and javelins rained down like the sky was angry. Nearly 1,000 pirates got shredded to 500 or 600 before they even reached our lines. The spike traps swallowed the front runners whole. My militia held formation beautifully. Shields up, spears out, stab, retract, stab. A guy named Nis from Potato Village was commanding his squad like he'd been born for it. Everything was working. Then some absolute unit of a man, a wild savage Mad Wolf had apparently rescued from a desert island a few days ago, charged our barricades, carrying a shield the size of a dining table. He crossed both trap trenches in 2 steps, slammed into our front line like a wrecking ball, and sent soldiers flying like ragdolls. Spears barely pierced his muscles. Even my heavy infantry couldn't hold him. A gap ripped open in our defense and pirates started flooding through like water through a broken dam. Meanwhile, Father had been dismantling Mad Wolf. The pirate's left arm was shattered, his axe knocked away, but the crafty wolf spotted the breach and tried to negotiate his way out. Your men are dying, my lord. Wouldn't you rather save them? I'll leave and never come back. I promise. Father stopped attacking. Mad Wolf's eyes lit up with hope. Then Father smirked and pointed toward the shore. Look over there first. Mad Wolf glanced sideways and his jaw dropped. Mons, leading 200 elite militia from the hidden cove, rowing in from behind, already charging toward the breach like a freight train with a battle axe. I kicked the exhausted Iron Bone away and screamed, Mons, forget us. Smash those pirates. Mons redirected mid-sprint, leaped 4 meters through the air, and buried his axe into the savage's shield so hard the giant crashed flat on his back. The militia erupted in cheers. 500 more fighters poured down from the cliffs to join the slaughter. Mad Wolf was still processing this when Father's sword flashed across his chest. Down he went. Alive, barely, because Father wanted him that way. Iron Bone saw his captain fall, panicked for 1 fatal second, and I pounced. Hammered him with everything I had, broke through his guard, and split his skull clean in half. My sword went so deep it embedded in his chest plate. Messy. Effective. Gonna need a new sword. Gervais was still fighting Black Rose and getting visibly frustrated that Father and I had already finished. He sped up, got sloppy, took a boot to the chest, Black Rose used the momentum to bolt toward the sea. Then her feet stopped moving. She looked down. A whip was wrapped around her ankles. Gervais stood there holding the other end with the smuggest grin I'd ever seen on his face. You think a guy who fights with a chain mace doesn't know how to use a whip? He yanked her back, wound up his mace with 2 full rotations, and hammered it straight into her chest. Bones cracked. She flew backward, hit the ground, and started coughing blood. 3 transcendent pirates down. Savage neutralized. Pirate army collapsing. My plan worked. Mostly. The part where a random shirtless giant almost destroyed everything was not in the script. But hey, that's what hidden reserves are for. The last 30 or 40 pirates threw down their weapons, turned white as ghosts, and surrendered on their knees. Smart choice. Only one available, really. I had Crowren handle the casualty count and told Mons to finish off any mortally wounded pirates and pile up the bodies. Surrendered ones got locked up. Then I walked over to where Mad Wolf was leaking blood into the sand, had 2 militia carry him back to the manor, and finally, went to bed. It was nearly 4 in the morning by then. Woke up around noon. Lunch with Father and Gervais. Then I called in Crowren and Mons for the after-action report. Crowren looked like he'd been awake for 30 straight hours because he had, yet somehow still appeared fresh enough to attend a royal ball. Meanwhile, Mons was covered in dried blood and looked like someone had kicked his puppy. The heavy infantry under his command had lost 2 men, and 3 more were badly hurt. Crowren opened his notebook. Total combatants, 1,800. Militia deaths, 126. Serious injuries, 102. Light injuries, 537. Netherflame Army deaths, 21. Serious, 9. Light, 62. Grand total, 147 dead, 111 seriously wounded, nearly 1 in 10. My stomach sank. The plan had been airtight. Cliffs, traps, barricades, superior numbers. If that random shirtless savage hadn't bulldozed through our line, casualties should have been minimal. Almost all the deaths happened after the breach. But the survivors? 1,500 battle-tested soldiers who'd tasted real combat. 2 or 3 more fights, and they'd be hardened veterans. Enemy forces, 986. Killed, 761. Captured, 225. Seriously wounded pirates have been dealt with. Classic Crowren delivery. Dealt with, doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. I looked up. The promises I made before the battle. 10 silver moons per participant, 5 per pirate kill, lifetime care for the seriously wounded, 10 acres, and 10 years tax-free for families of the fallen. Make sure every single one gets honored. If money's short, tell me. I will not let my soldiers bleed and cry. And tell every village chief. If anyone harasses the families of the dead or wounded, I will personally make them regret being born. Crowren bowed with his hand on his chest. Mons dropped to one knee, eyes red, voice thick. My lord. Thank you. On behalf of my brothers. Yeah, stop the flattery. What did we capture? Crowren flipped the page. 3 medium pirate ships. 10 small ships. 1,651 gold coins. 76 silver moons. 51 copper stars. Food and supplies totaling 87,621 gene. Over 2,100 weapons including ranged. 2 full suits of plate armor. 306 usable leather armors. Interrogation suggests their base still has considerable loot remaining. My eyebrows went up. Over 1,600 gold coins. That alone nearly covered my entire deficit. And there was more sitting at their base? How many pirates left at the base? Approximately 30 to 40. They came at us with everything. I thought for a moment, then issued orders. Mons, Crowren, manage the territory while I'm gone. Handle the village relocations, comfort the people. Select 400 of our best fighters from the battle, equip them with captured gear. The Netherflame army is now 400 strong. Then I turned to Father and Gervais. Mind taking one more trip with me? I want to check out Mad Wolf's base and the islands they raided. No objections from either. Father looked almost excited. Crowren, prep half a month's food and water. We leave tomorrow. Mons, finish the army expansion today and come with us. Just as I was wrapping up, Crowren mentioned casually, "Oh, Mad Wolf is awake. Would you like to visit him, already?" Father's sword had carved his chest open last night. How was he conscious? We went down to the dungeon. One look answered my question. All four of Mad Wolf's limbs were broken, bent at angles that made my bones hurt just looking. I gave Crowran a very suspicious sideways glance. He smiled his usual angelic smile. You were all sleeping this morning, and Mons was at the beach. I was worried he might break free, so I took some precautions. Precautions, sure. This man broke all four limbs of an unconscious transcendent knight as a precaution. I was starting to think Crowran's tailcoat was less butler uniform and more serial killer cosplay. I turned to Mad Wolf. Talk. Where are you from? Who's backing you? Why target Coral territory? Mad Wolf burst into manic laughter that dissolved into coughing. You think I'm someone's puppet? Relax, nobody's behind me. Just me. As for why your little island? Money. Obviously. Gervais cut in sharply. You're using Frost Crystal Kingdom military combat techniques. Don't tell me you have no connection to their army. Mad Wolf's laughter died instantly. When Gervais called out Mad Wolf for using Frost Crystal Kingdom military techniques, my stomach did a little backflip. If this guy was connected to Frost Crystal's army, that meant he might belong to a powerful noble family, and that meant potential international drama. Wars between nations kind of drama. Quick explanation for context. Frost Crystal Kingdom is one of only 3 countries on the continent with an actual standing army, the Frost Crystal Legion, because they share a border with the Black Rock Dwarf Kingdom, and those little guys attack constantly. The Legion is staffed almost entirely by noble family sons, funded by noble family resources, and commanded by royals. Basically, if Mad Wolf came from that system, stepping on his toes could mean stepping on some very big, very angry noble feet. Mad Wolf sneered at Gervais. How do you even recognize the techniques? Royal Academy graduate, Gervais said, looking appropriately smug. That triggered something. Mad Wolf's eyes filled with pure hatred, and he exploded, ranting about privileged noble brats who gave idiotic orders, got people killed, then hid behind family connections. Crowran shut him up by casually stepping on his shattered kneecap. The screaming was vivid. After I waved Crowran off, I crouched down to Mad Wolf's chalk-white face. Just tell us your story. Unless you'd prefer a few more days of Crowran's hospitality. He spat, but talked. Turns out he was a squad captain in the Frost Crystal Legion's Blood Wolf division. A year ago, the dwarves launched a massive invasion, nearly 100,000 soldiers, 3 full armies, and crushed the outer defenses. His battalion commander died gruesomely. Mad Wolf was next in line for promotion, but a Viscount's son parachuted in to earn glory and took the position instead. Then came the disaster. The noble idiot spotted a dwarf supply convoy and ordered an attack despite Mad Wolf and 2 other captains warning him it was reckless. They reluctantly agreed on the condition of immediate retreat afterward. They won, lost 80 men doing it, but the idiots saw the dwarves were transporting premium weapons and refused to leave. Mad Wolf's group pulled out. Dwarf cavalry showed up. Bloodbath. 3 days later, the noble brat crawled back alive and blamed everything on Mad Wolf's group. Called them deserters. His family pulled strings. Mad Wolf and his men were sentenced to slavery. He killed his guards and fled to our waters instead. No family backing him. No secret conspiracy. Just a good soldier screwed by a bad system. I watched him carefully through the whole story. No lies. Father and Gervais confirmed it with their eyes. I stood up and turned to Crowran. Hang him on the cliff face to dry out. Put the suppression collar on him. Mad Wolf went from resigned to furious. You promised me a quick death. You lying. I glanced back with my best villain smile. I killed 147 of my people because of you. Quick death? Also, I promised you a quick death. Crowran never promised anything. I walked out while Crowran retrieved a pitch-black collar from the torture rack. A suppression shackle, forged with rare metal that blocks transcendent powers. 30 gold coins a pop. I'd brought it from home specifically for this occasion. Couldn't risk Mad Wolf recovering enough to summon his phantom beast and escaping. That collar was staying on until the seagulls finished with him. Late night. 3rd floor study. Me, Father, and Gervais standing on the balcony with red wine, gazing at Coral Lake like 3 brooding protagonists in a painting. Gervais swirled his glass, took a sip, sighed contentedly, then side-eyed me. You didn't drag us up here just to admire the view, did you? I smiled my most dangerous smile. What if I told you we could turn the entire Azure Archipelago into Sea Harrier family territory? Gervais buffered. Father's wine-swirling hand paused for exactly 1 second, the man's version of a jaw drop. Explain, Father said. So I did. The key was timing. Father had just been promoted to Viscount, but the noble council in the capital still had him registered as a baron. They'd only send officials to measure our land after processing the paperwork, and anyone who's ever dealt with capital bureaucrats knows that could take 6 months of those ancient fossils shuffling papers. If they showed up and saw our current territory was already Viscount-sized, they'd just rubber stamp it and maybe toss us a couple of worthless remote patches as compensation. But if we grabbed new territory before they arrived, as long as we stayed under Earl-sized, everything we claimed would automatically become ours. Legal loophole, baby. So, the Pirate Islands, Gervais said, finally catching on. But what's the point? No resources, no people, scattered everywhere. I pulled out a stack of notebooks from under the desk and handed them over. Gervais read the titles aloud. Sleepless Island Plan? Grain Base Initiative. On the development potential of maritime route islands. Top Secret Island Project? He scratched his head. I think I'm growing a new brain up here. Father, meanwhile, was already reading with intense fascination. I unrolled a map of the Azure Sea, copied from Earl Waterland's personal collection. Thank you very much. 27 islands total. Coral Territory was the biggest. 3 more were almost as large. 11 were Night Territory sized. 13 were tiny. 5 or 6 islands sit directly on the north-south shipping lanes, I said, tapping the map. Ships travel 3 to 4 days between them. Imagine turning those into resupply stations with entertainment, taverns, lodging, recreation. Charge double mainland prices because where else are sailors going to shop? The ocean? Get them drunk, casually extract shipping intelligence, package and sell the non-sensitive stuff. Easy money, easy intel. Gervais, bless his stubborn heart. And the other islands? Tell me, Gervais, does this continent have a food shortage? He blinked. Nobody had ever asked him that before. He'd never been hungry a day in his life. I answered myself. Frost Crystal Kingdom up north was locked in endless war with dwarves. They needed grain desperately. Down south, Holy Bear and Mad Lion countries were fighting orcs on the grasslands, also starving for supplies. We sat comfortably in the middle, surrounded by peaceful neighbors and fertile land. The big islands become grain farms, I said, tapping each one. We have the best farming techniques on the continent. Our yields crush everyone else's. Grow food here, ship it north and south on existing trade routes. Merchants told me the markup is double. With our low production costs, we're looking at 2 to 3 times profit. I pointed at the remaining remote islands. These become secret workshops. I have some inventions that can speed up equipment manufacturing. With the farming colony system pumping out thousands of soldiers over the next 2 years, buying armor and weapons at market price would bankrupt us. A hidden production base solves that. Father and Gervais stared at me like I'd just unveiled a world domination PowerPoint. Then Father asked the one question that mattered. Green, do you have any idea how much manpower and resources all of this would require? Father's question was fair. Where would I find enough people to fill 27 islands? You'd need to dump the entire sea harrier population of 100,000, and it still might not be enough. But I had a plan. Obviously, we don't need to do everything at once. First, clear out the pirates. Then scout the islands. That alone takes us to year's end. And Father, you're forgetting something. War with Blazeflower is coming. They have 500,000 to 600,000 people. We don't need money or land from that war. We just need to grab 70,000 or 80,000 people. Father actually laughed out loud, pointed his finger at me like, you little schemer, and said, fine, you've convinced me. The family will fully support this. Tell me what you need. I laid it all out. Clean up the pirate islands on this trip, leave garrisons, send Gervais home to launch the farming colony system, and start building ships. In 3 months, I'd begin conquering the remaining islands. 2 teams, me leading one, Father and Gervais the other. Use militia as the main force because real combat was the best training. 2 or 3 months to sweep every island, timed perfectly for when the capital's officials would arrive to measure our land. A little bribery, and boom, legal sea harrier territory. I chugged my wine, wiped my mouth, and kept going. We'd need massive grain purchases to feed 200,000 to 300,000 future residents for at least 6 months. Send advance teams to build housing on the islands before winter. Sea wind at night kills people without shelter. Father nodded and added his own details. Buy cloth and living supplies. Mass-produce spearheads and shields for the expanded army. Survey each island for freshwater, farmland potential, and special resources. Then Father paused, looked at Gervais, got very serious. One more thing. The island territories will be registered under Sea Harrier, but actual ownership goes to Green. My brain stopped working. What? Father explained calmly. Gervais would inherit the established Sea Harrier territory. I had nothing except Coral territory, which I'd earned entirely on my own with minimal family help. Yet I'd given the family the salt method and the farming colony system, massively boosting our power. It was only fair. I started stammering. Father, I haven't really contributed that much. The islands should probably. Did I want the territory? Of course I wanted it. But I also knew this plan used family manpower, family resources, family soldiers. I'd mostly just provided the brain. And anyone could see these islands would become a money-printing machine. I didn't want Gervais feeling cheated. Before I could finish my noble refusal, Gervais grabbed me in a one-armed hug and laughed. It's yours. Every island. Family support included, not a single coin less. Don't you dare refuse. But you'd better train hard. Once you hit Grand Knight, these islands become legally yours. Deal? My throat tightened. This was a territory rivaling a viscount's domain, and my brother was handing it over like passing the salt at dinner. Thank you, Father. Thank you, big brother. The islands will always be Sea Harrier territory. I'll manage them well. Father looked at both of us with an expression so warm it could have melted the Frost Crystal Kingdom. His boys. Getting along. Building an empire together. Good. Now let's finish the plan. We worked until 2 or 3 in the morning, hammering out details until our brains were mush. When I finally stumbled back to my bedroom, changed into sleepwear, and chugged a glass of water, I was buzzing from too much wine and too many ambitions. Then I opened my quest panel. The spy mission had been completed after interrogating Mad Wolf at noon. Quest complete. Reward: Star Rank Cultivation Secret Medicine Information. Details: in 30 days, go to Coral Territory Beach at dawn. A wooden crate will contain Star Rank Cultivation Medicine. Star Rank Medicine. That was 2 full levels above my current night rank. The kind of stuff that could make or break a breakthrough to heights most people only dreamed about. New quest: Island Conqueror. Objective: conquer every island in the Azure Sea. Become the uncrowned king of these waters. I stared at the screen, grinning like a lunatic in my pajamas. The mysterious scroll basically just told me to do exactly what I'd already planned tonight. The universe and I were finally on the same page. Uncrowned king of the Azure Sea. Had a nice ring to it. Beautiful day. Freezing wind. Me standing on the dock with dark circles under my eyes looking like a raccoon who'd been up all night plotting world domination. Which, honestly, wasn't far off. My brain was still buzzing about the quest reward. Star Rank Cultivation Medicine. An entire crate of it, just casually washing up on a beach in 30 days. 1 dose was worth hundreds of gold coins. I'd used a Grand Knight level potion to break through before, and that cost 150 gold. This stuff was leagues above that. Even a single dose would keep my transcendent energy boiling for 2 weeks straight, multiplying my training speed several times over. With my natural talent, plus a full crate, I could hit Grand Knight within a year. And if I managed that before the war. Oh, Blazeflower Inge. The guy who beat me half to death. I had such a lovely reunion gift in mind. Before departing, I had to deal with Elena's puppy dog eyes. She'd spent the past week learning etiquette from the head maid and had apparently absorbed everything in record time. Because of course she had. She was a reincarnated Blazing Sun prodigy. She'd begged me all morning to come along on the voyage. I responded by handing her over to Crowrin as his assistant, complete with a thick study curriculum and a combat training schedule. The legendary Frost Knight needed to learn basic swordsmanship and riding before she could follow me anywhere. She looked at Crowrin's course plan like it was a death sentence. Father had already left with his fleet. We'd split into 2 groups to cover more ground. Smart move that would cut the timeline in half. 3.5 days of sailing later. 3.5 days of nothing but training, reading, and staring at water. Ironbone Island appeared on the horizon. The pirate base. The 30-something pirates left behind saw our ships approaching and ran to the dock waving their arms in welcome. Our ships still had Mad Wolf's Red Wolf logos painted on them. They thought their boys were coming home. Half an hour later, those same pirates were kneeling in a neat row, trembling next to a few fresh corpses. Our militia had jumped off the ships in full pirate cosplay and started swinging before anyone could blink. Easiest conquest in military history. Alex ran up to me, practically vibrating with excitement. My lord, we found over 5,000 gold coins, plus silver and copper worth another 1 or 2,000. And cargo, cloth, iron, ore, salt, weapons, armor, food, all of it. I couldn't help grinning. Combined with the battle loot, we were sitting on 8 or 9,000 gold coins. Not bad considering this was the combined savings of 7 or 8 pirate crews. They basically delivered a care package to my doorstep and then politely surrendered. Then a militia soldier came sprinting up, completely out of breath. "Oh lord, over here, we found something. You need to see this." A militia soldier led me to a cave behind the docks. The moment I stepped inside, a wall of rotting stench hit me so hard I nearly threw up on my own boots. The cave split into 2 tunnels. The left one was where the smell came from. 3 or 4 militia guys were already doubled over vomiting at the entrance, and a dozen more were squatting against the wall looking like they'd lost the ability to process reality. I pressed a handkerchief over my face and went in anyway. Alex pushed ahead with a torch. A minute later, he froze solid, then started shaking uncontrollably. I stepped up beside him, saw what he saw. I'm not going to describe it in detail. 40 or 50 women's bodies. Some decomposed beyond recognition. Some more recent, with injuries that made my vision go white with rage. Every single face frozen in agony. My fist crushed the handkerchief so hard my knuckles turned white. Words came out of my mouth that would have made a sailor blush. I dropped the handkerchief, turned on my heel, and ordered their cremation. Then I went to the right tunnel. 1 to 200 women. Alive. Barely. Huddled together in the dark, bruised, some naked, some in rags, all of them terrified. When they saw men with torches entering, some started crying softly. A girl, 14, maybe 15, looked up at me with purple bruises on her skin and gave me this tiny, grateful smile through her tears. Mama said always smile at people who help you. Her mama had been taken out last month and never came back. Something hit me right behind the eyes. I turned and walked out fast before anyone could see my face. Take care of them. Find them clothes. Now, at the cave entrance, I stared at the sky, exhaled long and hard, then marched to the docks with a face like thunder. Strip every pirate naked. Tie them to stakes. The captured pirates had no idea what was happening. They'd been kneeling there confused, and now they were being lashed to wooden posts while screaming for mercy. I had their mouths gagged because the noise was making me angrier. Once the rescued women arrived at the docks, cleaned up, dressed, led by Alex, they knelt before me in gratitude. The woman at the front caught my attention. Porcelain skin, sharp features, a beauty mark under her right eye that gave her this magnetic mix of elegance and allure. Even my battle-hardened, 2 lifetimes aesthetic sense needed a second to recalibrate. Her name was Connice, former second-level manager of the Bohemia Trading Company from the Holy Bear Duchy. A week ago, her merchant fleet was ambushed by Mad Wolf's pirates on the return leg of a mining deal with Frost Crystal Kingdom. Most of her people were slaughtered. She survived because of her looks. Bohemia Trading Company. I knew that name. One of the biggest commercial organizations on the continent, backed by the ancient Marquis-level Bohemia family, with offices in every major city across all human nations. A second-level manager, handling external negotiations for an operation that size? This woman was no ordinary survivor. My rage quietly made room for opportunity. A commercial talent of this caliber falling into my lap, right when I was planning to build a maritime trade empire across 27 islands. Sometimes the universe apologizes for the horrible things it shows you by immediately handing you exactly what you need. The sky darkened out of nowhere, wind howling, the rescued women shivering in thin clothes. I offered to let them go aboard the ship where it was warmer while I dealt with the pirates. Connice looked back at her group. Every pair of eyes burned with hatred deep enough to melt iron. We want to watch. The cold can't freeze the fire inside us. Not a single woman moved toward shelter. Fair enough. I turned to my troops. Anyone here good with a blade? Out stepped the most unexpected volunteer imaginable. A militia kid, maybe 18, under 5'7", wine red hair tied back, Features so delicate and feminine, I genuinely did a double take to confirm he was male. He knelt gracefully, like every movement was choreographed. My lord, I've carved wood since childhood. My knife skills should meet your requirements. I was skeptical. But hey, plenty of pirates to practice on. Start with the first one.